across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk Drive. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you so much for your company. There's loads to talk about this Thursday afternoon. The Deputy Prime Minister may well not be the Deputy Prime Minister by the end of the day. We'll see if that report from the Ministerial Ethics Advisor, Laurie Magnus comes out today. If it comes out during Drive, we'll bring you all the details, of course. These things are generally quite swift. She has had graffiti spread on her Hove flat outside, calling her a tax evader. That's accusing her of breaking the law. I think she's avoided tax. I don't think she's broken the law, but she's certainly made a mistake, and she should have paid probably £40,000 in stamp duty that she did not. So what about Keir Starmer? Well, he says that he won't confirm whether he's going to sack her if she's broken the ministerial code. We'll see what he has been saying in just a minute. We'll also talk about Lily Allen, arguably one of the stupidest people to ever grace God's earth. She has been saying that she only thinks that the England flag should be flown for football matches if England get to the final of a major championship. Well, she's got plenty of form of saying lots of stupid things previously, including that she played down the impact of the rape gangs, saying there was a strong possibility the victims would have been raped or abused by someone else at some point. That's kind of the issue. She later apologised for those comments, but maybe if you are someone who comes out with stupid things, maybe you should say fewer things publicly, Lily, and just count your millions for your not very good music. Lots more to talk about as well, including the Scots. This is John Swinney, the First Minister of Scotland, who is flying the Palestinian flag in Edinburgh. Why? We'll talk to an SNP MSP about that a bit later on. Lots to discuss. I want to get your views on it. Do you think Angela Rayner should go? If so, why? Let me know. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. Send me a voice note, less than a minute please, we'll play those out. You can send me a WhatsApp text message or give me a ring. All three of those things on the main number 0344 499 1000. Plenty to talk about this Thursday. Stay with us. Well, Andy in Thatcham's been in touch already and says everyone calling for Angela Rayner's resignation needs to get some perspective. It's not like she had a piece of birthday cake handed to her in her place of work on her birthday. Calm down, everybody. Well, Andy, I think, perhaps has his tongue in his cheek with that one, but certainly people have gone and been fined for a lot less than what Angela Rayner has done. In the last hour, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has spoken to the BBC. He couldn't say if he would sack Angela Rayner if she broke the ministerial code.
As I say, the right thing is to refer herself to the independent advisor. He has a reputation for being comprehensive and being quick, and that's what I'm expecting in this
next day
case.
or so?
Well, I can't say, but I think he will be quick. I mean, that's usually how he operates, and I think that would be a good thing in this particular case. Obviously, I will look very carefully, as you'd expect, to whatever report he puts in front of me.
Can't you, would you not just explicitly say if a minister has broken the ministerial code, they'll be sacked? Well, and you're not saying that.
What I'm saying is there's a clear procedure. I strengthened that procedure. It is now taking place. I am expecting a result pretty quickly. I do want it to be comprehensive, as you'd expect.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I will act on whatever the report is that's put in front of me.
So he'll act on what's put in front of him, but he won't confirm whether she'll be sacked. And as we saw with Boris Johnson, he did not sack Priti Patel when she was shown to be a bully at the Home Office, and the Ministerial Ethics Advisor on that occasion resigned. So it'll be very interesting to see exactly what happens. Keir Starmer, of course, paints himself as Mr. Rules. Let's see what Ryan Saby thinks. He's the Deputy Political Editor and Economics Editor of The Sun. Ryan, how much trouble is Angela Rayner in? What do you expect to happen in the next few hours, in the next 24 hours?
Yeah, I think we're now looking at it being really desperate for Angela Rayner. If it wasn't bad enough already, I think we're sort of moving into possibly the last 24, 48 hours of her time in the cabinet. The reason I say that is because if the independent watchdog comes back and says she's actually breached those rules, we've just heard in the last half an hour, 45 minutes or so from the Prime Minister saying that he will act on the findings. Now, he hasn't said whether he will sack Angela Rayner or not, but let's try and work out what Sir Keir means by act.
Yeah, we don't know what acting on that means. Acting might mean, well, I've read it and I've had a jolly good discussion with her about it.
Yeah, it could do. But I think if Sir Laurie Magnus comes back and says explicitly that she has broken the ministerial code, I don't think he will have any choice but to get rid of her. And it might be the case that if he says that she has broken those rules, that she actually walks herself, and Sir Keir doesn't actually have to make a decision himself. She may just resign. But I think that's interesting language from the Prime Minister in the last hour or so.
You think it's couched? Do you think he's speaking very carefully, choosing his words carefully?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think the pressure has been building ever since. Sir Keir said he's been updated at every single stage through this. He was on holiday last week. She ordered that extra legal advice last Friday. She got it on Monday. And I think as soon as that legal advice came through that she had underpaid, it's strict liability on this. It's your decision. It's all very well and good saying, well, my legal advice wasn't very good.
Well, you're responsible for what you do. Yeah, you're responsible for what you do, and also,
responsible.
And as we've heard from we heard yesterday actually from a stamp duty expert. I mean, it's been Jake Berry as well, who's a property lawyer as well as obviously a former Conservative politician, cabinet minister. Him saying that actually, no lawyer is an accountant, essentially. Well, some of them will be, I suppose, but legal advice is not tax advice, and those are two very different things. You've been reporting as well about her flat in Hove being vandalised with graffiti, calling her a tax evader. Now, she says she's a tax avoider rather than evader. Evasion obviously is illegal, avoidance is legal, but she didn't do the right thing. It was a mistake rather than something illegal. But this is clearly shows to me anyway, Ryan, I'll be interested in what you think, that this is cut through to such a degree. There's so many people, not just viewers and listeners to this programme, but many, many people in the country who are very, very annoyed about this, to the extent that someone thought they would graffiti her flat.
Yeah, I think we actually condemn any sort of actions
of course.
Like this. There's no need for that. But it does show you that there is anger. I think one of the issues is she's housing secretary. She's in charge of making all those decisions up and down the country on housing. So when there is an issue over whether, we go back to the very original set of stories where it was seen that she had access to 3 houses. It's very, very difficult to actually get on the housing ladder. So that initially wound people up. Then there was the issue over council tax. Then there was the issue over stamp duties, all these things. I mean, it's just talking about this now to you, Peter, it seems that there is so much pressure on her that her position is almost becoming untenable. And I think we're sort of moving into the territory of she's just becoming a distraction for the Prime Minister and as Housing Secretary, Deputy Prime Minister. It's very, very difficult for her to hang on. I think sometimes you get fever pitch in this situation, and I think, we're pretty much there, and it'd be very interesting. I think as well with the independent watchdog saying that he could come back, well, word is that he could come back quite quickly, means that this could be a pretty much cut and dry case, and it's a very sort of short report, and it's a very easy decision for Sir Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner to actually make.
The former Prime Minister Liz Truss spoke to Mike Graham about this morning on our breakfast programme Morning Glory. This is what Liz Truss said about Angela Rayner.
It's looking very difficult for her. I mean, she's a first-class hypocrite.
Yeah.
She spent years and years attacking Tories over tax, over second homes. It's just the sheer hypocrisy of these people, Ever since they've got into government, it's been one scandal after another, accepting freebies, masses of private jets. They made out they were whiter than white, and they're not, and they're not even doing anything.
No.
I mean, some of this stuff might be more forgivable if they were actually improving the country, but the country is headed for ruin.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they've got their hands in the till. You would have thought she'd be very, very careful when she did something like buy a second home.
You would think.
And you make sure you got the best people and you really checked it out.
Yeah.
She clearly didn't, and therefore the rules don't apply. Well, she should have resigned already.
Yeah.
She should have resigned already. I suspect this is going to drag on.
Ryan, what do you make of those comments from Liz Truss?
Yeah, and I think the hypocrisy call from Liz Truss there. You look at what Angela Rayner did in opposition. She was the #1 attack dog from Labour. Any sign of scandal, she jumped on it straight away. You look at the comments she made about Nadeem Zahawi when he was caught up in a similar situation. He was forced to leave his position. She was all over that. There are countless examples, and I think sometimes when you are calling the tune like that, I think when the boot's on the other foot, you've got to be extremely careful. And Liz Truss is right there, that when she's purchasing a property, she has to be whiter than white and actually make sure that she's checked this to the nth degree. Now, it's emerged today that it seems like she did consult 3 people, a conveyancer and people with expertise on trusts, but they weren't tax experts. Now, I think this is the big problem. So when Sir Laurie Magnus actually looks at this and asks her, who did you seek advice from? And it turns out that none of them were tax experts. I think she's got a big problem because she didn't do the due diligence herself.
Ryan, let's talk about a couple of other things that are happening politically today, about the phone hidden in the House of Commons to play sex noises during Prime Minister's questions. Take us through this.
Yeah, no, this seems a bizarre story, and it seems like there was a sweep of the House of Commons before Prime Minister's questions, and they found this phone, and apparently it was there to make these noises, and I think the Commons authorities are seeing this as a real breach of security. How did it happen? I understand that there's very little video evidence or CCTV footage of how it actually got there, but could you imagine that going off, that phone going off while Prime Minister's questions was going on? It'd be an embarrassment for the whole country, embarrassment for Parliament, and I think there would have been the fact that it was found is great, but if it had gone off, there'd been big security concerns. So thankfully it was found. So I think the embarrassment, on one level people may have seen it as being sort of smutty, but actually it'd have been horrendous.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Tell us about this double-digit poll lead as well. Nigel Farage heading into his party conference, Reform Party conference in Birmingham tomorrow and Saturday. We'll be bringing you full coverage from there, of course, here on Talk. But this is a nice boost for Nigel Farage, of course, as he comes back from Washington.
Yeah, that's right. Reform 32%, Labour 22%. I'd say that's a very healthy poll lead, and it's just the direction of travel that we've been seeing in the past few months, really. Nigel Farage has been setting the political weather, where a lot of politicians decided to go on holiday or maybe take it easy over the summer. Nigel Farage was on the front foot. He was holding press conferences weekly. He was travelling all over the country and really pushing home the government's failings on small boats. So I think what this poll shows is the result of actually, getting around, meeting the people, and actually sort of setting policy over the summer. Where he's been setting the agenda, and where the government are probably being sort of tinkering around the edges on policy, and it's been a very, very difficult subject for them. Nigel Farage has been leading the agenda.
Ryan, thank you. That's Ryan Saby there, Deputy Political Editor and Economics Editor of The Sun. Appreciate you joining us today. Thanks to Margaret in Birmingham. Nigel Farage coming your way in the next couple of days, Margaret. Hello, Peter. No way will she resign. Starmer has no backbone to sack her. I'm so fed up with the working class girl made good. There is a look of entitlement. Look at me about her, fall on her sword. That's what she should do, says Margaret. Ed in Liverpool says if Angela Rayner doesn't fully understand the implications of stamp duty, how on earth can she set policy within government? That is surely the bigger question if she's claiming ignorance as her defence. Either way, she's got to go. Ed, I think that makes a lot of sense. I also think there's a big issue here about the fact she apparently, according to the Telegraph, used the compensation money that her son got from the NHS for some sort of medical screw-up to buy this flat. I mean, surely that money was for her son. Maybe the money went around in a different way, but I think a lot of that, I think there are so many questions for Angela Rayner. Victoria in Suffolk has another one, says she's either an idiot or she's corrupt. Either way, she must resign. It has to be game over, as she's been so vitriolic about others. Her position is untenable, and to take over as Prime Minister if Starmer steps down, it's unthinkable now. Bill in Thailand, Orange is showing Rachel from accounts how to cut taxes. Great show. And Betty says if she resigns, she's back in 2 years. If sacked, she comes back as leader. Jules has been in touch from Bedford. You can too. Give me a ring, 0344 499 1000. Jules, what would you like to say about this?
Hi, Peter. You were talking about the distinction earlier between evasion and avoidance. And I think if only we were talking about the stamp duty, then, yeah, she's just trying to reduce her exposure to tax in a legal way. You know, people make mistakes doing things like that. But what about the council tax? Because hasn't she declared a primary residence in one location in such a way that makes it advantageous to her for council tax purposes as well?
That's right.
So that starts to look a little bit more systematic to me, but what would I know?
No, I think that's absolutely right, Jules, and there are just so many questions here. What do you think she should do?
I think she has to resign. She must know that she's done for, and if she forces Keir to remove her of her ministerial responsibilities whilst leaving the post of deputy PM, then she's a lame duck. He's a lame duck because he's shown to be weak, and the whole thing's even worse. Who are we going to get then? West Streeting, maybe? Maybe
he is actually enjoying this in some weird way. That his two big rivals to him, Angela Rayner and Rachel Reeves, are both on the ropes at the moment.
Yes, he is. But I think if he's enjoying the suffering of two female colleagues, that maybe starts to raise slightly different questions about the way he sees people.
Jules, thanks for your thoughts. Jules in Bedford there, I appreciate that. John in Long Lawford says, I think if Rayner stays in position, no matter what the ethics investigation finds, it would be more damaging to Starmer than if she left. The British will forgive many things, but hypocrisy is not one of them, says John. Jane says, since last July, it has been scandal after scandal. More questions than answers. The flags will be flying once this rotten government falls, says Jane. Lots more to discuss. Get your call in, get your voice note in, 0344 499 1000. Do you think Angela Rayner has a political future? What do you think? We're also going to talk in just a second about shoplifting. Another political leader, this is Zach Polanski, the former hypnotherapist who said that women could think their way to larger breasts. He says that shoplifting is justified if you're poor. Stay with us.
Very good morning to you, by the way. Morning, Tory, with me, Mike Graham.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the home of common sense.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
So it's very interesting, this point actually that I was thinking about a bit earlier in regard to what the money from the compensation from her child. And Tina says she took that money from her child's trust to pay for a larger share in the home, where normal parents would leave that home to the child in the will. So she took money from a child and avoided tax and inheritance tax. Well, we don't know exactly that that's the case. We do know that she sold her share of her house in Ashton-under-Lyme, which is her constituency near Manchester, to the child's trust, got the money and then used it as a deposit for the home in Hove. Either way, it's not great, and it is avoiding tax. Now, avoiding tax isn't illegal. I do it because I have an ISA, and that's how I avoid tax on the interest, by having an ISA, as many people do. Not that I have very many savings, it must be said. But nonetheless, I think we're in a situation where it's not just what she's done, it's how it looks. It's also the fact that as Deputy Prime Minister, she has access to all sorts of experts and legal experts and accountants that we don't have. There are people, and I would imagine that HMRC, for example, which, I don't know about you, but anytime you try to get through to HMRC, I've been on the phone for 45 minutes. I remember getting through and then literally said, "Hello, my name is Peter," and then they hung up on me. That's been my experience a number of times, and I'm sure Angela Rayner has a hotline to the top people. So she's living in a different world to how most of us are. Amy says the Prime Minister said he wants to have this investigation done quickly, and I think that's because he doesn't want this hanging over the party during their conference. But if it comes back that she has broken the code and he doesn't sack her or she doesn't resign, then it will dominate it. And Tad in Cambridge says, "Afternoon, Peter, only the most scrupulously honest people are fit to represent us at any level. At ministerial level, even more so. The shower don't even come close. They don't know the meaning of integrity, and as was shown in Alex Phillips' show yesterday evening, socialists are only answerable to the Fabians, the wolves in sheep's clothing, not the people." Well, let's talk about another politician who I'm not particularly happy with, and this is Zach Polanski. He is the new leader of the Green Party. We spoke to his colleague Natalie Bennett, Baroness Bennett, the other day, and I don't think that went particularly well for her, to be honest, when she said a few things I think she shouldn't have. But now Zach Polanski has said that he believes that shoplifting is fine if you're poor, if you're living in poverty. It's justified if you're living in poverty, according to Zach Polanski. He says people who steal because they do not have much money should be shown compassion. The former hypnotherapist, he's the one who said that women could think their way to having larger breasts, said we are criminalising poverty and criminalising inequality, and we should have a look at that. A lot of people who are poor have to go around stealing, have to go around stealing because they have no other option. If I had no money or any way of getting any money or food to my family, then I would consider shoplifting. Mike Neville is with me, the former Metropolitan Police detective. Mike, what a load of old nonsense.
Yes, you're right, Peter. It is a load of old nonsense. I remember speaking to one of my old colleagues, a sergeant major from the army, and he told me when he was young, he said, "I'll tell you what poor is, having the only meal in the house is the next one." But people like that would never have considered stealing. It would have been the ultimate wickedness. And what you see is very few people steal because they're hungry. There's opportunist thieves who see that they can go through the scanner without paying. But then there's drug addicts who steal because they need drugs. And then there's very organised stealing. So you hear about things like baby milk being stolen, and it's portrayed as, oh, there's a poor mother feeding her starving child. A lot of the baby milk, bizarrely, ends up being shipped out to Vietnam. A lot of the booze...
It's also used in drugs as well. It's also used to bulk up drugs that are here as well, things like cocaine and other drugs as well. So, yeah, it's not just people who really can't afford it. And even if they do, it's still wrong. There are food banks. There are ways people can get income support. We look after people in this country who don't have enough money and can't feed themselves. There is never any excuse for breaking the law in this way.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And what the trouble with the likes of Zach Polanski, of course, is that the person who owns the shop, to him, is a sort of a capitalist oppressor of the masses.
Evil profiteer.
Yeah. That's absolutely nonsense. So they don't see that there's any problem with stealing those goods, and then the prices are inflated for the people who obey the rules. And this is a problem, Peter, all the time. And I say this time and time again. obeying the rules is becoming the stupid option, because people see people going into shops. They don't conceal a bottle of whiskey anymore. They put 4 or 5 bottles of whiskey in a carrier bag and just walk out of the shop. You see it on TikTok, blatant going into shops, just stealing things. And other people must think, why am I being stupid and paying for this? And this is when society starts to break down, because we all just obey the rules, not because we're frightened of the law, really, but it's the way society is glued together that we all get along because we obey these simple things like not stealing. And so he's justifying that, and that really is where society starts to go wrong.
Got a brilliant message here from Enid, who's been in touch on WhatsApp. Enid, I know it's only 28 minutes past 4, but I am absolutely sure, almost absolutely sure, this is going to be the message of the day, so you win the prize. So shoplifting is justified if you're poor, says Enid. Is the leader of the Green Party not now going to be arrested for encouraging criminality? I mean, we had Natalie Bennett, his party colleague, he was on Newsnight in the BBC the other day saying that Graham Linehan should have been arrested for inciting violence for his tweets. I wonder if he's saying it's fine to shoplift would mean that he could be lifted for inciting criminality, Mike.
Well, the trouble is, Peter, you know it's well, it's the two-tier policing that you can say certain things and you get arrested, like poor old Graham Linehan, and you can say other things like punch a turf in the face and you don't get arrested. This is the problem, and this is what people see. But with the shoplifting, it really is an issue that people think they can just walk into shops and walk out. You see security staff, they're almost told not to do anything about it, and it just sends the wrong message to the public when people just walk out with goods.
Mike, thank you so much. That's Mike Neville, former Metropolitan Police detective. The #1 issue you want to talk about today, loads of messages coming in, is Angela Rayner. I'm going to give you the space to do that, because between now and 7, as I do on every show I have, it's all about you. It's about great guests like Mike Neville and Ryan Saby, but it's mainly about what you want to say. Mike's given me a ring from Lancashire. Mike, what would you like to say? Thanks for the call.
Hello, Peter. I'd just like to point out that Angelina's excuse through this has been she received bad advice.
Yeah, blame the lawyers.
So people should look sympathetically for her. Well, Lucy Connolly received bad advice, but she still had to go to prison and ended up doing her sentence. No sympathy was bestowed on Miss Connolly.
Also, Angela Rayner is responsible for her own actions. I mean, I don't know if you filled out a tax return, Mike. I do it because of the weird way I get paid. And yeah, your accountant has to do it for you, or does it for you. I pay an accountant through the nose to pay me for it, to do it for me. But then I have to sign it off and say, this is accurate. And she's the one ultimately has to take responsibility, Mike.
Yes, I agree. I fill one in myself every year.
And you have to stand over that. Every single thing you put in there, you've got to stand over it. And if you don't, HMRC will be in touch. Getting in touch with them's tricky, Mike, but they'll get in touch with you very, very quickly and tell you you're wrong.
They certainly would. I have to sign everything off that I do. But like I said, Lucy Connolly received bad advice, but she was shown no sympathy whatsoever.
Well, it's a very fair point, and thank you for it. That's Mike in Lancashire. Thank you for that. If you want to get on the air, like Mike, it's 0344 499 1000. Brian in Westcliff says, I am disgusted by Rayner as both a minister and a mother. A trust is established to serve the best interests of her disabled son, and suddenly she decides one of its shrewdest investments might be to buy a quarter of her house so that she gets a new flat hundreds of miles away. Wow, thanks, Mum. Thank you to Brian, who says, I need to say that whether Rayner has avoided tax mistakenly or deliberately is largely irrelevant. I'm sure if I was stopped for driving in a 40 mile an hour zone, if I was driving 40 miles an hour in a 30 mile zone, I wouldn't be excused if I simply said it was a mistake. She has to go. Alex says, all I will say, country first, party second. I despise that man and his party. I think we can say that referring to Keir Starmer there. Can you remember when Angela Rayner stood on the podium and said, if only they could see me now? Well, we can see you now for what you really are, says Reg. And Jane says, I took the plunge and watched Politics Live today on the BBC. The female Labour rep went down the route that Angela Rayner is the subject of either, take your pick, hatred towards being a woman with a disabled child, or hatred against her upbringing, and that we should be grateful that women like her are in such positions of power. We have no hope. I mean, if we're honestly saying, first of all, it's a great point, Jane, and secondly, if we're saying as a society, I don't care where you came from, I don't care what, you know, your background is, rich background, poor background, whatever, we're going to do it on merit, which I don't think this society is about anymore, actually, at all. But if we're saying that, well, why do you have to keep harping back to something you were born into? You know, your race, for example, your economic circumstances when a child. Angela Rayner isn't working class anymore. She'll say till the day she dies she's working class. She's middle class. Middle class people are people who can afford, you know, to buy a home, to have more than one extra home. She has 3 homes, one of which is paid for by you and me, a Grace and Favour apartment in central London. We've got some breaking news now, and that is that an asylum seeker called Hadush Gebrselassie Kabatu, who's 38, has been found guilty at Chelmsford Magistrates Court of sexually assaulting a woman and a 14-year-old girl in Epping in Essex, days after arriving in the UK on a small boat. So that is the breaking news, that the asylum seeker Hadush Gebrselassie Kabatu, who's 38, has been found guilty at Chelmsford Magistrates Court of sexually assaulting a woman and a 14-year-old girl in Epping in Essex, days after arriving in the UK on a small boat. I'm pretty sure that attack was, which he's now been found guilty of, was the spark for a lot of what went on in Epping. We'll make sure we get a voice from Epping a bit later on in the show to talk about this, but that is the conviction. He's been found guilty. The asylum seeker, 38-year-old Hadush Gebrselassie Kabatu, found guilty at Chelmsford Magistrates Court of sexually assaulting a woman and a 14-year-old girl in Epping, in Essex, days after arriving in the UK on a small boat. We'll talk to the SNP in just a second about why on earth they're raising the Palestine flag in Edinburgh. Stay with us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Just to bring you up to date with that breaking news, you may have heard it before the break, but if you're just joining us, this is the conviction of an asylum seeker, Hadush Gebrselassie Kabatu, who is 38 years old. He's been found guilty at Chelmsford Magistrates Court of sexually assaulting a woman and a 14-year-old girl in Epping in Essex. This was days after arriving in the UK on a small boat. We'll hear from Epping later in the show. We've also got Peter Blexley coming up, our crime commentator, to let us know his thoughts on this as well. This was the attack which he's now been convicted of, which sparked a lot of the protests in Epping. Of course, people weren't particularly happy about the Bell Hotel anyway, but this particular attack was something that was very, very serious. He's now been convicted. He won't be sentenced just yet. That will happen, I would imagine, in a few weeks' time, but we will get reaction from Epping and indeed from Peter Blexley. Well, I want to talk now about John Swinney, the First Minister of Scotland. He's been accused of risking the safety of Jewish people in Scotland by flying a Palestinian flag. He's also taken anti-Israel measures. So he's told Holyrood, told the Scottish Parliament, that the Palestinian flag would be flown outside St Andrew's House for the rest of Wednesday as MSPs debated the conflict raging in the Middle East. And he has also announced the end of taxpayers' cash going towards defence companies involved with Israel. Well, earlier John Swinney responded to the claims that that flag, the Palestinian flag, could be dangerous for the Jewish community. This is what he said.
I want every community in Scotland to feel safe and supported and welcomed and valued. That's who I am. That's what I'm about. And I knew, the reason I met with the Jewish community on Monday is I knew they would be uncomfortable with a lot of what I was going to say in Parliament. But I have to do the right thing, and I have to operate within the law, which underpinned what I said to Parliament yesterday. Now, I will continue to engage in dialogue with the Jewish community. I will listen to their concerns about safety, and I will represent their concerns of safety.
Well, and he then went on to say why the Scottish Government had raised the flag.
There is a genocide going on in Gaza that I cannot ignore. I just cannot ignore it. And I have to reflect that in the priorities of my government. As I explained to Parliament, I am obliged to respect international law for the ministerial code. I do not want to be in breach of the ministerial code. And with the information available to me just now, I have to act on that basis. That's the basis of my statement to Parliament yesterday. But to the Jewish community in Scotland, I say that the community is welcomed, valued, will always command my attention and my interest, and I will do whatever is required to assure them of their safety.
Well, Emma Roddick is a member of the Scottish Parliament for the SNP. She represents the Highlands and Islands. Emma, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
No worries, good afternoon.
Safe, supported, valued and welcomed. How on earth are Jewish people going to feel safe, supported, valued and welcomed by raising the Palestinian flag?
I don't see the two as a conflict at all. I've had many people from the Jewish community express, like many others, their concern for what's going on in Gaza at the minute. I'm
concerned about what's going on in Gaza at the moment. What I am also concerned about is you raising the Palestinian flag. You've absolutely no reason to do so, and what it will do is it will intimidate and annoy and make Jewish people less safe. You know that, John Swinney knows that, and what he's just said in those clips is absolute nonsense, isn't it?
No, I certainly hope that the raising of the flag is going to show that we are welcoming, particularly for the 20 children that we're going to be bringing over who are injured and are going to benefit from the Scottish NHS. I think them knowing that we are here for them, we are welcoming and happy to see people from various backgrounds, whether they are of one faith or another, whether they're from one country or another. If they're here in Scotland, then they should be able to expect safety and security and respect from other people in their communities.
Safety, security, respect from other people in their communities. Did the Scottish Government raise the Israeli flag on the 8th of October 2023 after the horrendous attacks of the 7th of October?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
Well, they didn't. I can tell you now they didn't. Why not? If you care about these people, if you want them to be safe, supported, welcomed and valued, why are you choosing one side of the conflict in the Middle East against the other?
Look, whenever we are welcoming refugees from across the world, I'm more than happy to see their flag flying. It was the same when we were welcoming displaced Ukrainians a few years back, and I know how much of a difference that it made to those people who are coming here for safety to see their home flag flying, despite what was going on back home. And I hope that that has the same effect for these Gazan children.
Well, listen, the Gazan children certainly have had an incredibly rough time. There are many, many innocent people in the Palestinian territories, both the West Bank and indeed Gaza, that have had a terrible time because of what has happened there and because of Israeli bombardment after the Hamas terrorist attacks. I just wonder, given that the Scottish Government has no remit in regard to international affairs, why you feel you need to intervene or at least show your support in this particular conflict.
I think firstly, it would be fantastic if we didn't feel we had to intervene. If the UK government were doing enough in this situation and it was just superfluous for the Scottish government to say anything at all, and we'd all be in a much happier position, and that's why much of what John Swinney said yesterday was calling on the UK government to take more appropriate action. But secondly, Scotland as a nation itself does not wish to be complicit in a genocide, so we have to do whatever we can to be on the right side of history, and that is what these
Who says it's a genocide? Who says it's a genocide?
Well, I say it's a genocide. Many of the people in the international community say it's a genocide, and that it meets the
Okay, I
test
didn't
of
realise you're an international legal scholar. Do you have an iPhone?
I don't.
Does anyone in your family have an iPhone?
Not so far as I know.
Is that because you don't want Israeli components in it, or is that just the way things are? Because there are lots of things that Israel has done as a country. For example, advances in brain surgery, advances in things like chemotherapy, for example, that actually enhance the medical experience of many people in Scottish hospitals. Should we boycott that, as well as defence companies?
I mean, good for them. And, you know, globalization has a lot of advantages, it has a lot of disadvantages. I think what's clear and what the First Minister set out, which I completely back, is that we cannot be complicit in a genocide, which is why the measures that have been put in place
So
are
where do you draw the line then?
Fields.
Where do you draw the line then? So you're talking about defence, but surely you'd be complicit in what Israel does if, for example, any member of the SNP had an iPhone with components that came from Israel. You'd be supporting the country of Israel, you'd be supporting those components, you'd be supporting the taxes that go to the Israeli government, which then fund what you call a genocide. I mean, surely that's hypocrisy from the SNP, is it not?
I think that's a massive stretch and a bad faith argument.
But the defence companies, but you can't fund the defence companies. You can't fund the defence companies.
No,
so where do you draw the line?
Right that it's absolutely right that we're calling on the UK government to end arms sales to Israel, because those arms are being used to conduct a genocide. Now, sanctions being placed on another country, that is a reasonable thing to do to try and convince a government to look again at what it is doing, because the international community disapproves of it. That is an entirely reasonable act for us to do as well. But I do not believe that somebody owning an iPhone is complicit. And
even though there are components in Israel. It's a bad faith argument. Interesting, because a lot of pro-Palestinian people do make it. I just wonder, I mean, you've criticised Israel on a number of occasions, and you're clearly holding them responsible for genocide. Would you like to criticise Hamas in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. And exactly the same as the First Minister and most of the people who took part in the debate yesterday. It's been extremely clear that the Scottish Parliament on the whole is just gutted at what has happened on the 7th of October a couple of years ago. It was an awful thing for the international community to witness. It does not excuse what has happened since. And we can take a view on both. They are not in contradiction with each other. When we are being pro-human rights, pro-international law, we can call it out regardless of who is responsible. And that is exactly what I have been hearing the Scottish Government do.
So you'd be happy right now to condemn Hamas and to call them terrorists, presumably?
Yes, it's a terrorist organisation. I absolutely condemn it.
OK, thank you for your time. That's Emma Roddick there, who's a member of the Scottish Parliament for the SNP for the Highlands and Islands. Thank you to her for her time. Thank you to Dawn in Chelmsford, who says, I just cannot believe John Swinney's crass behaviour. The Palestinian flag is a terrible look. What has happened to our politicians, says John. Gribbo in Charlton says, I was born poor, brought up poor, sit there now poor, always paid my stamp and taxes. There's absolutely no angle of Rayner Gate that makes her look good, in my opinion, whether it be as an MP, the Deputy Prime Minister, the honest working class Northern lass, or a mother, says Gribbo. Leslie says all supermarkets and stores should ban the idiot Polanski from their stores. Speaking of iPhones, actually, or mobile phones, I do wonder whether if his phone was stolen, if he was a victim of crime, if there was a robbery of his home. God forbid, I wouldn't want any of those things to happen. But if it did, whether he would feel really, really sympathetic to the people who had done that and say, oh, they're poor and they've had terrible circumstances. It's something which I think is a luxury belief which he has, and he doesn't live in the real world. I also don't believe believe John Swinney or indeed Emma Ruddock lives in the real world either. Stephen Tenbury Wells says Nigel Farage and Reform are going to be the only beneficiaries of the Rayner scandal. Graham and Bushy says it took 3 different people to give Angela Rayner advice on stamp duty. So how many people does it take to give Angela Rayner advice on how to change a light bulb? Mary in Dorset says, good afternoon, Peter. Regarding the phone in the House of Commons, it may have been to play embarrassing sounds, but it could have been a bomb, and that is what is scary, says Mary in Dorset. In fairness to the House of Commons authorities, I'm actually going to stand up for them in this one. They found it, they removed it, they'd done a security sweep, they did their job, and good for them for doing so. But yes, lots to worry about. And Mary, you're absolutely right in every aspect of what you said there. We're going to talk more in a second about this breaking story about the asylum seeker who has been found guilty at Chelmsford Magistrates Court of sexually assaulting a woman and a 14-year-old girl in Epping in Essex just days after arriving in the UK on a small boat. Peter Blexley will give his reaction in just a second. We'll get reaction from Epping before the end of the show too. Stay with us.
Very good morning to you, by the way. Morning, Tory, with me, Mike Graham.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Ella in Staffordshire has been in touch about the Palestinian flag being flown from Scottish government buildings. Ella says how insulting to the Scottish people raising that flag. They are in fact insulting all British people, and I'm very surprised it's been allowed to stay outside a public building. Paul says, who do these lefties think, what do they think, sorry, let me start again. What do these lefties think will happen if Israel stops fighting the terrorists? Dawn says, Emma Roddick gave you ridiculous answers to your questions. She clearly needs to grow up. Gary in Portree says that vile woman is unfortunately my MSP. One, she is an indictment of everything that is wrong with the SNP. They disgust me. Sean in Edinburgh says, I'm disgusted with John Swinney and Emma Roddick's remarks on safety towards the Jewish community. It shows the SNP are another anti-Semitic party. You say and I say there is no genocide in Gaza. And thank you to Michael, who says, do you think some Jewish lawyers will be explaining to John Swinney in the courtroom what the actual legal definition of genocide is? These leftist clown politicians are quite simply the dumbest batch of inexperienced fools I've seen in power in my long time on this planet. They're a proper chuckle of clowns singing from a dictated hymn sheet. I hope the right-minded people of Scotland chuck them out at their next opportunity, says Michael. Thank you. Well, we're going to talk about this story now about Hadish Kabatu. He's been found guilty on all 5 counts he was charged with. This is an Ethiopian asylum seeker. He showed no reaction as the judge read out the verdicts, and he was staying at the Bell Hotel in Epping. He was on trial for attempted sexual assault, 2 counts of sexual assault, inciting a child into sexual activity, and harassment without violence. He pleaded not guilty to all the offences and claimed the allegations against him were simply fabrication. Guess what? They weren't. They were true. The judge delivering his verdict said the evidence against Kabatu was clear and consistent, and the arrest led to a wave of anti-immigration protests and counter-demonstrations as well. Karen McIver is the branch secretary of Epping Forest Reform UK. Karen, thanks for joining us quickly on the phone on this breaking news. I appreciate that. What's your reaction?
Thank you very much for having me on. Well, obviously, I'm pleased that he's been found guilty. Obviously, number one, but I'm so sad for the family. A beautiful family, just going about their normal life, and now because of errors by our government and local Epping Forest District Council, they've been put in this awful situation, and it's just sad. It's sad all round as regards the family. But obviously, I'm pleased with the guilty verdict. The hotel needs to close. We've been protesting peacefully for this for a long time now, and you know, had the government have acted properly and not allowed strange men to come to our town that have been in the country for 6 days, undocumented, we don't know who they are, this poor family wouldn't have had this in their life, and now they've got to live with it, and it's just awful. And it can happen to anybody at the moment because the situation is out of control. We're trying so hard to get the hotel closed. It's inappropriate, and we need to be listened to. And sadly, you know, despite all the protests, the hotel still remains open. We will continue to protest until it closes.
Well, this is a horrific thing, as you say, and our thoughts, of course, are with the victims today. Justice apparently has been done. He's certainly been found guilty of these things, and let's hope they throw the book at him when it comes to a sentence. Karen, even though this is a horrific thing, does it strengthen your case? Does it actually say, hold on a second, the stuff we said was happening, it's now been shown and proven in court to have happened. By the way, maybe you would think about closing the hotel.
Yes, I think it does. I like to think it does, but we knew it. We've all known it's happened anyway. We know of lots of things that happen in our community that were relating to that hotel, which is why we are peacefully protesting as mothers and grandmothers over the last couple of months, and we will continue to do that. It needs to close, Peter. It's completely inappropriate next to school. The children have now gone back to school. You know, it's just wrong on every level.
Karen, thank you, and thanks for coming on quickly. That's Karen McIver there, branch secretary at Epping Forest Reform UK. Peter Blexley is the former Metropolitan Police detective who's our crime commentator here on Talk. Peter, your reaction to the conviction of Hadish Kabatu, the Ethiopian asylum seeker who has been convicted, found guilty on all 5 counts of sexual assault that he has been charged with?
Fortunately, in this case, justice has been served. Every peaceful protester who went to the Bell Hotel in Epping has had their protest entirely vindicated by these verdicts. What it also shows is that this lamentable Home Office, led by the deplorable Yvette Cooper, who readily admits that it puts the concerns and the interests of asylum seekers and illegal migrants before those of British people, British victims of crime, are clearly not fit to govern in the UK.
You're absolutely right, Peter, and part of the legal argument, the written legal argument recently in that Court of Appeal case from her own lawyers, from Yvette Cooper's lawyers, and I know as a former special advisor in the Home Office that special advisors, ministers, probably the Attorney General of this country, Lord Hermer, he's one of the most dangerous people in government, in fact probably is the most dangerous person in government, will have seen that, will have read that, will have gone through that with a fine-tooth comb for the political implications. And if they didn't realise that those lawyers saying that the human rights of these asylum seekers are more important than the people like Karen and her friends who live in Epping, well, that is a huge mistake on a number of levels. Now we have this conviction. What will happen now? It'll probably take some time before the sentence comes through. And what happens after that?
Well, Kabatsu has not only enjoyed expensive hospitality, being fed and homed in the hotel in Epping, he has also incurred costs to the nation, have incurred costs by his legal representation at court. I fear now there will be some pathetic attempt to appeal this conviction. That would not surprise me in the slightest. I just sincerely hope that Kabatsu is held in custody pending his sentencing or pending any appeal, and that if this was a country with a spine, with a backbone that put the rights of its people before illegal immigrants like him, then he would be shackled, handcuffed, placed in a van and flown back to Ethiopia by daybreak tomorrow.
Well, we know that should happen. Peter, thank you so much for your thoughts there. Peter Blexey there, former Metropolitan Police Detective and our crime commentator here at Talk. And thank you to everybody who has been in touch with all sorts of issues, including John and Jane in the Isle of Wight. He says some weeks till sentencing after being found guilty. He surely isn't allowed an asylum claim, so must be immediately deported. That's John and Jane from the Isle of Wight. Nan in Wales says, can I ask, what's the difference with Angela Rayner wanting to protect her child's future and our farmers wanting to do the same? It's hypocrisy at best, says Nan in Wales. And Charles in Midlothian says, I've always been a proud Scot, but I'm now ashamed of my country. These performative SNP idiots, like all idiots, have fallen for the Hamas propaganda. They are now pandering to the Muslim vote with an eye to the May elections. God help us if the Shah and Starmer's crew stay in power. Keep up the good work, says Charles in Midlothian. Well, Charles, thank you for that. Certainly, I think it's virtue signalling. I asked Emma Roddick of the MSP whether they raised the Israeli flag after the 7th of October. In a shock move, she, quote-unquote, didn't know whether that was the case. Well, I can tell her right now that it didn't happen. It was never going to happen because the SNP and their lefty mates are very, very clear where they stand. They stand with the Palestinian cause, and in a way, that's fine. And if you want to stand with the Palestinian cause, that's okay. That's your right to do so. But the fact is that Hamas, the terrorists, will welcome what the Scottish Government have done. Enemies of this country will welcome what the government have done. The kind of terrorists that Hamas are will not just stop in Israel. They want to destroy our society, our way of life, our freedom of speech. Stations like this, the home of common sense and the home of free speech, they are things that wouldn't exist if Hamas were in charge. And the SNP are giving succor to them by doing this. And I think Emma Roddick is completely wrong. She's had her say, and now I've had mine. Thank you. You can have your say as well. You can give me a ring on 0344 499 1000 if you want to get your voice on the air in the next couple of hours. I'm here right until 7 o'clock, and then Alex Phillips is here afterwards. The Shadow Cabinet Office Minister for the Conservatives, Mike Wood, is going to be on with us in a second, talking about Angela Rayner, talking about that phone in the House of Commons as well, hidden to play sex noises during PMQs, and the plank of the day. Lily Allen says it's only acceptable to fly the England flag during the World Cup. We'll talk about her as well. Plenty to discuss here on Talk. 0344 499 1000.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, it's just gone 5 o'clock. This is Talk Drive. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you so much for your company. Angela Rayner is under serious pressure. When will the Independent Ministerial Advisor's report come? That is Sir Laurie Magnus. He's the ethics advisor. We'll find out whether he thinks she's broken the ministerial code. Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has not said whether he will sack her if she's broken the ministerial code. We'll talk about that. We'll see what's going to happen in the next couple of hours, and if it happens, we'll bring it to you live here on Talk. These things generally happen quite quickly when the ethics advisor puts pen to paper. We're also talking about Lily Allen, who says the only acceptable time to fly the England flag is the World Cup, and a big breaking story this afternoon that Hypocrisy, an Ethiopian asylum seeker, has been found guilty of attempted sexual assault, 2 counts of sexual assault, inciting a child into sexual activity, and harassment without violence. Why is this important? Well, it's important because he was staying at the Bell Hotel. Many people, including Karen McIver, who we've just spoken to, say that their protests were essentially prompted. They didn't want the Bell Hotel to be open anyway or to house asylum seekers, but of the 138 men there, they're scared of what is happening. I know there are lots of viewers and listeners to this show who are worried about it too as an issue. We'll talk about that as well. We'll also take a look at the sport with the Sun's night sports editor Phil Cadden a little bit later on as well. And I want to hear from you. The number is 0344 499 1000. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell, send me a voice note, send me a WhatsApp text message, or give me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Loads to talk about between now and 7 o'clock. Stay with us here on Talk. Well, thank you to everybody who's been in touch on Twitter. This person says every single person, mother, grandmother, daughter, even men that protested outside the Epping Hotel, the Bell Hotel, have now been proven right and vindicated in their actions. The Bell Hotel must close. In fact, every illegal immigrant hotel must close. This is after this scumbag, this sex offender, Hadush Kabatu, has been found guilty on all 5 counts he was charged with. He's an asylum seeker staying at the Bell Hotel in Epping on trial for attempted sexual assault, 2 counts of sexual assault, inciting a child into sexual activity, and harassment without violence. He pleaded not guilty, but the judge said the evidence was clear and consistent. He showed no reaction as the judge read out his verdicts. His arrest led to a wave of anti-immigration protests and counter-demonstrations. We've talked about that already. If you have comments on it, let me know. What's going to happen now? I think he should be deported in the morning. Also on Scotland and the Scottish Government saying that they have flown the Palestinian flag. What has Palestine got to do with a devolved government, says this person on Twitter. Deal with local issues, which the SNP are not dealing with. Why are left-wing parties all anti-Jewish? As for Rayner, we all know she'll be sorted out, like her, Starmer and Labour always are, even by the Bank of England. And Archangel says it's clear Emma Roddick, the MSP from the SNP we were talking to a little bit earlier on, has no clue about the law of armed conflict or what actual genocide looks like. Well, we know why they use that word. We know why they talk about a concentration camp. We know why they talk about genocide, because they want to say Israel's as bad as the Nazis. Well, let's talk now about domestic politics, about Angela Rayner, about her future, about what is going to happen to her. The ministerial advisor on ethics, Sir Laurie Magnus, he's an independent figure. He is going to go through this with a fine-tooth comb. We're expecting his report. Could be this evening, could be tomorrow. Will Angela Rayner still be the Deputy Prime Minister at the end of it? The point that was put to Sir Keir Starmer by Chris Mason, the BBC political editor, is if this advisor, if Sir Laurie Magnus finds that Angela Rayner has broken the ministerial code with all her, I think we can safely say, dodgy property arrangements anyway with their 3 homes, will he sack her? And earlier today, Starmer spoke to the BBC about this. He didn't say whether he would or would not sack her. Just listen to how carefully he chooses his words here. It's not about what he does say, it's about what he doesn't say. Here's the Prime Minister.
As I say, the right thing is to refer herself to the independent advisor. He has a reputation for being comprehensive and being quick, and that's what I'm expecting in this
next day
case.
or so.
Well, I can't say, but I think he will be quick. I mean, that's usually how he operates, and I think that would be a good thing in this particular case. Obviously, I will look very carefully, as you'd expect, to whatever report he puts in front of me.
Can't you, do you not just explicitly say if a minister has broken the ministerial code, they'll be sacked?
Well,
and you're not saying that.
What I'm saying is there's a clear procedure. I strengthened that procedure. It is now taking place. I am expecting a result pretty quickly. I do want it to be comprehensive, as you'd expect.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I will act on whatever the report is that's put in front of me.
This was the view of the former Prime Minister Liz Truss. She joined Mike Graham on Morning Glory this morning.
It's looking very difficult for her. I mean, she's a first-class hypocrite.
Yeah.
She spent years and years attacking Tories over tax, over second homes. It's just the sheer hypocrisy of these people, you know. Ever since they've got into government, it's been one scandal after another, you know, accepting freebies, you know, masses of private jets. They made out they were whiter than white, and they're not even doing anything.
No.
I mean, some of this stuff might be more forgivable if they were actually improving the country, but the country is headed for ruin.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they've got their hands in the till. You would have thought she'd be very, very careful when she did something like buy a second home.
You would think.
And you make sure you got the best people and you really checked it out. She clearly didn't, and therefore the rules don't apply. Well, she should have resigned already. She should have resigned already. I suspect this is going to drag on.
Mike Wood MP is the Shadow Cabinet Office Minister. Mike, are the Conservatives in any position to criticise over sleaze when it comes to property?
Look, I mean, I think anyone looking at this case, whilst people may have sympathy for obviously Angela Rayner's own family circumstances, it just doesn't smell right. And obviously Angela Rayner has always been the first to jump up and down and point at others and insist that obviously the highest standards need to be maintained. And yet here she seems to have pulled a fast one, telling different authorities different things to try to minimise tax liabilities. And it's not behaviour that she would put up with from anybody else.
Mike, if she's shown to have breached the ministerial code, if Sir Laurie Magnus finds that, should she be sacked or resign?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any question. If she's shown to have broken the ministerial code, as Keir Starmer said, any politician who seeks to avoid the taxes they owe in this country is not fit to be in charge of taxpayer money.
So the shadow foreign secretary who serves in the shadow cabinet with you was found to have broken the ministerial code and found to be a bully at the Home Office, yet Boris Johnson did not sack her. Isn't that hypocrisy from you?
Well, I mean, obviously, just to correct you, I don't serve in the shadow cabinet, or you're promoting me a little. But no, I mean, that was obviously where that report was on a completely different subject. It found that
it's on a different subject, but Mike, it's on a different subject, but the principle is absolutely the same. She was found to have breached the ministerial code, yet she was not sacked by the Prime Minister. So you're now saying that the Prime Minister currently, Sir Keir Starmer, should sack Angela Rayner. Those two things, I mean, you're being a hypocrite, are you not?
No, I don't think I am, for the simple reason that obviously the Prime Minister's made it clear in the ministerial code that there are obviously different breaches of ministerial code, but that serious breaches.
So it's not a serious breach to bully civil servants. It's not a serious breach to bully civil servants. It was serious enough that the independent ministerial advisor at the time resigned as a result of Boris Johnson not sacking Priti Patel. But you're saying it's different, so therefore it's fine.
It was clear that that there was inadvertent behaviour that might have been perceived. And obviously
she was found by the report to have been a bully. She was found to have breached the ministerial code. She was not sacked by Boris Johnson, whereas you're saying that the current Prime Minister, if Angela Rayner has broken the ministerial code, should sack her. Those positions are not consistent, Mike.
They're entirely consistent for the simple reason that, yes, I think there is an enormous difference between a report on a human resources complaint that said someone, a very senior cabinet minister, felt bullied, where it was concluded there was no intention to bully. I think
there may not have been an intention to bully, but bullying happened. She was found to be a bully, and Boris Johnson didn't sack her. She was found to have breached the ministerial code by the person who was arbitrating on that. Now you're saying that the Deputy Prime Minister, if she is found to have breached the ministerial code, should resign or be sacked. I mean, it's really straightforward.
What I'm saying is that if evading tens of thousands of pounds.
I'm not defending her for a second. I'm not defending her for a second. Are you accusing her of breaking the law? You've just said evading, Mike. You've just said evading. Evading is illegal. Are you accusing Angela Rayner of breaking the law?
Well, I think what she said yesterday was that she had clearly not paid a tax that was legally due. That is evading. Avoidance is obviously very different. That would be legally minimising a liability. Now, that may be wrong politically, it may not smell right, but obviously what she seems to have accepted yesterday is that taxes that were properly due weren't paid. That is evading taxes. Now, if that is not the most serious level of breach of the ministerial code and breach of trust with British people, it is hard to think.
So you're not fine, just to be clear, Mike, the Conservative Party is not fine with people doing this, and neither am I, and I think Angela Rayner has a massive case to answer, but you're fine with people being found as bullies. They can stay in office, can they?
No, clearly we never find people bullying. I say that report found that the then Home Secretary
was a bully. That's what it found.
No, that she wasn't aware that her behaviour was.
She was shown to have breached the ministerial code. It's really straightforward. She was shown to have breached the ministerial code. That's what the ethics advisor said. Boris Johnson didn't sack her. The ethics advisor then resigned. But you're saying, sorry, I feel I'm sort of stuck record here. I mean, can you not see that those two things are the same thing? And you're saying one rule for the Conservatives and one rule for Angela Rayner.
No, I think that there are very different levels of breaches of the.
So it's fine to be a bully. That's what you're saying. It's fine to be a bully.
Code. Clearly, there are appropriate differences in the way that they're responded to. Obviously, the then Home Secretary had to learn how to work in a way that it wasn't perceived that people were being bullied. As I say, the most senior civil service in the Home Office.
So what other breaches? Okay, Mike. Okay.
And for personal gain, they are minimising their tax liability.
Okay, I'm fine with both of them resigning, by the way. I'm absolutely fine with saying that both those people should resign if they're found to have breached the ministerial code. What other breaches of the ministerial code would be acceptable for a cabinet minister not to resign?
Well, we've obviously seen a couple of them in recent times where Jonathan Reynolds has clearly been holding himself out as a solicitor when he's not a qualified solicitor, and there's breach of the ministerial code. I think on balance it's probably right that he apologised rather than being sacked.
What about Jeremy Hunt, who received a bulk disc? What about Jeremy Hunt, who was Chancellor and indeed he was Foreign Secretary as well, who allegedly received a bulk discount on 7 flats bought from a Conservative donor? Nadeem Zahawi, his tax affairs, which yes, Angela Rayner said he should resign and had to resign from. Were those resignations correct? Were those the right thing?
Well, and I think what you've just said is exactly the point. Angela Rayner demanded that those people resign, and in the case of Nadeem Zahawi, he resigned.
Yeah, well, that's correct. Jeremy Hunt didn't. Should
by the Prime Minister.
Should Jeremy Hunt have resigned?
I honestly can't remember the details of that case, so I think it wouldn't be fair at all for me to comment. But
is that just because there were so many? Is that just because there were so many Conservative scandals that you've actually lost the run of them? Because there were so many of them that you can't even remember the detail of them and how many people resigned in 14 years, and now you're calling for the Deputy Prime Minister to resign.
I genuinely can't remember. I genuinely can't remember.
But you're being selective, are you not, Mike?
Go back and look.
You're being selective, are you not? Because you're saying there should be one rule for Priti Patel and one rule for Angela Rayner.
No, and I think actually as part of the hypocrisy, as I say, that Angela Rayner has, as you said, demanded that where in the case of Nadeem Zahawi, where he was penalised by HMRC for underpaying on taxes that were found to be due, that he had to resign. Now, the Prime Minister at the time agreed with that. clearly the Prime Minister now needs to apply those same standards to Angela Rayner.
Let me tell you what our viewers and listeners are thinking at the moment, I think. I could be totally wrong, and feel free to contact me, give me a ring, 0344 499 1000 to tell me I'm wrong. What I imagine is happening here is that people are seeing what Angela Rayner has done. They're fed up with the Labour Party. They've been fed up with your party. They voted you out of office convincingly. And the kind of equivocation and justification that you're saying right now means that you're turning people off politics. This is why you're so far behind Reform UK. This is why Jeremy Corbyn's party is going to take a bite out of the Labour Party. I mean, there's just so much that you've said in this interview. Do you honestly think you've convinced anybody in this interview to vote Conservative?
Look, you've asked me to come on to talk about a case that's obviously very live today. You're asking me about some historic issues that I genuinely can't remember the details of. But what I can say is that the standards that obviously Keir Starmer promised of his ministers, that Angela Rayner demanded of others throughout her time in opposition, have clearly not been met in this case. Now, in those circumstances, it is impossible to see how the Deputy Prime Minister can continue in office. Of course, we do expect the higher standards. That doesn't mean every time that someone makes a mistake, they must be sacked. As I say, I think Jonathan Reynolds made a mistake, he's apologised, and he continues. I think this is a wholly different level of affairs where Angela Rayner seems to have minimised her tax liabilities, meaning she's paying tens of thousands of pounds less tax than was due. She seems to have admitted that. If that is not the highest possible level of breach, which we've been told by the Prime Minister would have to result in either the resignation or the dismissal of a minister, it didn't matter who that minister was, any member of his cabinet or junior ministers, then clearly the government are not applying the standards that they promised to, both before the general election and subsequently.
Mike, in the last 2 minutes or so that you gave that answer there, and I didn't interrupt you, and I deliberately didn't interrupt you, you've made a very, very clear case for what your position is on this. I hope that I've given you the opportunity to make a very clear case as to why you think Angela Rayner should go. You did that with eloquence, you did that with facts, you did that very well. Why could your leader, Kemi Badenoch, not do that at Prime Minister's Questions yesterday?
Look, I mean, Kemi obviously raised it. She set out the clear position that Angela Rayner needed to go or to be sacked. And then she raised the very important issues about what the government's actions are doing to the economy and the effect that's going to have on... But
you and I know, Mike, you and I know that the economy will be there next week. Angela Rayner may not be.
Look, I mean, I'm not in the room when Leader of the Opposition prepares Prime Minister.
Should she have gone harder? Should she have gone harder on Angela Rayner?
But I do think that it was a perfectly reasonable line at a time when the cost of government borrowing is at the highest it's been for 30 years. The effect that is going to have on taxation, on borrowing, on public services, that the Leader of the Opposition held the Prime Minister to account on that yesterday. I think that was perfectly proper. I don't think that stops whether it's me, whether it's the Leader of the Opposition or any other Member of Parliament saying the behaviour of Angela Rayner clearly crosses a line and the Prime Minister either needs to ask for a resignation or sack her.
Were you not sitting there yesterday thinking, come on, Kemi, stick the boot in here. This is an open goal and you're missing it?
I think there are obviously times for theatrics in Parliament.
Surely yesterday was one of them.
I think Kemi's line of questioning, obviously going a lot down that line of questions around the cost of borrowing, which is direct result of decisions and choices that Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves have made over the last 12 months. That is going to have an enormous impact on families up and down the country, on people's jobs, on people's mortgages, on the economy, on the public services we can afford, the taxes they pay, and the borrowing that means that we're leaving higher debts to next generation. I think it's entirely right for Kemi to be raising important issues like that. So no, I don't think that was a mistake at all. I think it would be a mistake if she'd failed to raise questions for that matter.
Mike, thank you for your time this afternoon. Appreciate it. That's Mike Wood there. He is a Shadow Cabinet Office Minister. He's the Conservative MP for King Swinford and South Staffordshire. Kevin has been in touch and says Mike Wood has just highlighted the hypocrisy and double standards of the Tories, and it shows they have learnt nothing a year after being hammered in the election. Jackie says, I've come to the conclusion that politics is a cesspit in this country. When I think back to when we had politicians with integrity and conviction, how have we fallen so low? Well, speaking of falling low and being in a really difficult state in this country, we're going to talk more about the very, very welcome but nonetheless deeply depressing conviction of Hadush Kabati, this scumbag Ethiopian asylum seeker who assaulted he has been convicted of attempted sexual assault, 2 counts of sexual assault, inciting a child into sexual activity and harassment without violence. He sexually assaulted a woman and a 14-year-old girl. We're going to talk more about that. Danny Shaw, the crime commentator, is coming on with us in just a second. Get your views in on what you've just said, what you've just heard there as well. Thank you to Gary. He says, love that interview, Peter. You hit the nail on the head. The hypocrisy of Labour is no different to the Conservatives. You nailed Mike. Both parties stink, says Gary. Stay with us.
Very good morning to you, by the way. Morning, Tory, with me, Mike Brown.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you to everybody who has been in touch, including Steve in Wales, who says, good afternoon, Peter. Good afternoon, Steve. Excellent news for the people of Epping, who were correct all along. This government needs to hang its head in shame, deport this piece of filth ASAP. We're talking about Hadush Kabati, the Ethiopian asylum seeker. We'll talk more about him in a second. Just want to read out a couple more messages, especially in regard to Priti Patel, who was found to have bullied someone and found to have breached the ministerial code. Becca said it's not illegal to be a bully, however it is illegal to evade tax. You're right, Becca. I'm not sure Angela Rayner has actually broken the law, but we're in a situation where if you break the ministerial code, you've got to go. That's what Mike Wood said. So that's why I was pushing him on that particular one. Tony in Warrington, although in fairness he did talk about Jonathan Reynolds, and Jonathan Reynolds apologised to the House of Commons. So there is a debate there, and I'm happy to have it. 0344 499 1000. Tony in Warrington said, great show. Bullying isn't quite the same, I don't think, as avoiding or evading paying taxes that are due, especially when you've called other ministers out for exactly the same thing. Strong leadership is needed when you're in a cabinet position. It is not a case of snowflakes or a disagreement with management style rather than out-and-out bullying. Even so, I do not think you can class bullying, unless it is aggressive or violent, in the same way as not paying your taxes, says Tony. Well, I'm talking about breaches of the ministerial code, so by all means keep those views coming in, and thank you to Tony for them, and everybody else indeed who's been in touch. 0344 499 1000. Well, Danny Shaw's with us now. He's a police and crime and justice commentator and a former advisor to the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper. We're talking about what's happened in Epping. This Ethiopian asylum seeker who has been found guilty on all 5 counts he was charged with. He was staying at the Bell Hotel. He went on trial for attempting sexual assault, which he's been convicted of, 2 counts of sexual assault, inciting a child into sexual activity, and harassment without violence. Danny, what is your reaction to this?
Well, it looks like a very clear ruling from the district judge who heard the case and has come back with a definitive ruling finding Hadish Kibatu guilty, and he has said, the district judge, that it is most likely that he will get a term of imprisonment when he's sentenced on the 23rd of September. The maximum sentence for sexual assault, by the way, is 10 years. He's not going to get that. It's in the magistrates' courts where their powers are confined to up to 12 months. I would expect a sentence of 6 to 12 months imprisonment for Kibatu. There's going to be a pre-sentence report, Peter, to have a look at his background and what risk he may pose, because it seems, and the judge said this, that very little is known about him or his background. Arrived in the UK on a small boat and was staying at the Bell Hotel, as you said. He said that he was a teacher in Ethiopia, and he's 41 years of age. But apart from that, very little is known about his background.
I think the court was told he was 38, but we'll not quibble too much about that. Danny, in terms of the fact that he was in the country for such a short time before, I mean, this obviously at any time, and anybody who's been in the country for any length of time who commits this kind of thing is absolutely horrendous and totally to be condemned. I wonder if they're doing a pre-sentencing report, will the fact that he was here for such a short time before carrying out this horrendous attack, will that be factored in, do you think?
I mean, the pre-sentence report would just, try to understand a bit about him and the risks he posed and whether he accepts what he did was wrong.
I mean, he pleaded not guilty.
About his background and so on, to try and assist the district judge in sentencing. He's asked for the report, and so it will be compiled. And in some cases, when a report is compiled, it actually leads to a longer sentence because the judge sentencing is convinced that the person poses more of a risk. So it's not necessarily going to lead to a lighter sentence for him.
So the maximum this judge, this magistrate, can actually put in, can sentence him to is 12 months.
That's right. That's the extent of the magistrate's powers. I mean, if the magistrate felt that it warranted a stiffer sentence than that, then he would have to refer it to the Crown Court for sentencing. But there's no indication of that at this stage. He must have a pretty good idea of the kind of sentence he's looking at, and I would expect it will be up to 12 months, yeah.
We've already spoken to one of the peaceful protesters in Epping, a woman called Karen McIver. You may have come across her. She's the a Reform UK activist there and has been out on many of these peaceful protests. Of course, not all the protesters have been peaceful. There have been a number of arrests in Epping, but Karen and her friends are people who completely obey the law. If you were advising Yvette Cooper right now, those people are saying, and I think they've got absolute justification to say, that they feel vindicated in their protests by the fact that this horrendous but welcome ruling has come. What would your advice to Yvette Cooper be at this moment, Danny?
Well, I mean, I think she's continuing on the path that she set out earlier this week, which is that she wants to close all the asylum hotels, and I agree with her on that, and I would be advising her to step up that programme and to lay out exactly how that's going to be achieved and the timetable, and if possible which hotels and what alternative accommodation will be found for people, or the steps that are going to be taken to remove people from the country or to grant them refugee status and where they're going to be housed, but to settle that out as soon as possible so people can see what the plan is. But closing hotels simply on the basis that someone is convicted of a sexual offence from that hotel, I don't think is the right basis on which to just pick a hotel to close. I agree that you need a coordinated, proper programme to do it. I do hope it happens.
But within the coordinated, within the coordinated, proper approach that you advocate, and Dame Angela Eagle, the Immigration Minister, has talked about, and Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, has talked about, within that, would your advice be to prioritise the Bell Hotel because it is so controversial?
I think that certainly should be one of the priorities. It's obviously an area that's very upset about having the hotel there, and it should be a priority. But if you go down that route, then the danger is that you would encourage people to protest in other areas, because they would think, oh, well, if we protest loudly enough, then our hotel's going to be closed down.
It's not a danger to peacefully protest, though, Danny, is it? It's not a danger to peacefully protest, though. It's not a danger.
It's not, no, I'm not saying it's a danger to peacefully protest. The danger comes in advocating, if you close that hotel because there's been a lot of protests, the risk of that is that then there'll be lots of other protests, and that you're then having to sort of react to protests in that way. That can't be the basis upon which you close 200 hotels. There has to be some sort of coordination to it. But clearly, knowing that a hotel in a particular area is creating huge problems for that community should be a factor that's taken into account.
Danny, thank you. Danny Shaw there, police and crime and justice commentator, former advisor to Yvette Cooper. Ian in Hertfordshire says, shouldn't the title of the Right Honourable be removed from all members of Parliament until earned by each individual? Well, Ian, it's interesting. This is I put my nerd cap on here. It's only members of the Privy Council who advise the King who are Right Honourable. So usually, if you're a member of the Cabinet, you get Right Honourable and you become a Privy Councillor. Not all of them, and there's some other people as well who become Privy Councillors, but certainly they're just honourable, and then they're Right Honourable. Also, if they are a military officer, they can be the Right Honourable and Gallant. And if they are a lawyer, a barrister or a solicitor, they can be the Right Honourable and Learned Friend as well. So there's just a little bit of absolute nerdery for you. So thank you for that, Ian. Another person says, listening to Liz Truss this morning, calm, educated, confident, pointing at so many failings of this government. Yeah, just shame she screwed up her own government to such a huge degree and screwed the country at the same time. Lots more to come on all of this. Give me a ring if you agree or disagree with me. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you very much indeed to everybody who has been in touch. Diana Harding says, astonishing to hear Peter Cardwell dragging up the accusation of Priti Patel's bullying. A tiny woman bullying a civil servant. Good God, channel change required. Diana, well, you won't hear me because you've changed the channel, but the fact is that Priti Patel was found to have bullied a civil servant. That happened. The ministerial advisor found her to do that. That was what happened in his report. Thank you also to someone who says that the Uni Party is full of bull. We'll leave it there and not read out the rest of that. Paul says Priti Patel was trying her best to get overprivileged, overpaid civil servants to do their job for the good of the nation. Angela Rayner was doing nothing to benefit the nation. It was all about benefiting Angela Rayner. So thank you for all of that. Thank you to Loopy Lou as well, who says, great show. Linda says, I'm Scottish. I'm going to personally tell you I'm absolutely disgusted and ashamed of this Scottish government. I've never heard such absolute rubbish in all my years. Well then, let's talk about Epping with John from Cornwall. This is the conviction of an Ethiopian asylum seeker for sexual assault on two women, including a 14-year-old girl and a woman. John, you're on the air. Thank you for your phone call, 0344 499 1000.
Hi, Peter. Yes, I think this proves that there is an element, I'm not saying all the people that come here illegally or illegally, that come from cultures where this type of behaviour is perfectly acceptable, where women and children basically have no rights. I mean, there are countries in the world where a 70-year-old man can buy a 12-year-old girl to be his wife. Now, we call that in this country, this great free country, we call that paedophilia. And I think our government should stand up on the bench and shout it out loud and shout it down.
John, you're absolutely right. And the fact is, we do not know who these people are. We don't know their backgrounds. We don't know if this guy was a teacher or not. I sincerely hope he was not. We don't know if he's 41 or 38. We don't know what his background is. Maybe he doesn't even have a passport. We know he's Ethiopian. What we do know is that he's a sex offender. And what people at the Epping know is that there was, for a few days at least one sex offender in the Bell Hotel. They don't know about the other men who are there. They may all be entirely peaceful people who want a good life and are fleeing persecution and are legitimate asylum seekers. Personally, I don't think they should be in the Bell Hotel. Secondly, they've broken the law anyway by coming across in a small boat. But the fact is, we do not know who they are. And these protests that people are having, they've been totally vindicated, John.
Yes, and on top of that, it's the fact of that. When one of your previous speakers was saying that he could only get 12 months sentence.
Yeah, that's it, maximum.
We only have to do half of it. Can you imagine if you as a Brit and me as a Brit went out and done something similar
in Ethiopia?
Posting a text that Lucy Willoughby was given. She was given 34 months.
Well, Lucy Connolly there, yeah. I mean, John, I think, it was 31 months, but yeah, your point stands. John, it's a really interesting point. I think it is one that makes perfect sense. And I think that if anyone from this country went to Ethiopia and did the same thing, I think they'd be in prison almost certainly for longer than 12 months, and it certainly wouldn't be the kind of prison that is in this country. They're not nice places. I've been to quite a few of them. I used to be an advisor at the Ministry of Justice, been to Belmarsh, I've been to Highdown prison as well. I've been to quite a few prisons, and in America as well, in Camden and New Jersey. Not nice places, would never want to voluntarily go there, except for work as both a journalist and an advisor. But the point is, certainly, that in Ethiopia, I am absolutely sure they would be completely worse. Martin would be completely terrible and a lot worse than that. Martin in Cornwall says, I read somewhere that warehouses were touted to house the migrants and get them out of their hotels. What a great idea. Nightingale style, ready in a few weeks and all over the country. No more frills or benefits, just the basics, says Martin in Cornwall. Ernie says, this Kabatu found guilty of a sex offence against a child said he was a teacher. Imagine if he was granted asylum and got a job as a teacher in Britain. This is why we need to know everything about these people before we even think about granting them asylum. Ernie, you're absolutely right. There's also not just teachers, but teaching assistants as well. There's some very good journalism, I think, by the Times a few months ago about the fact that they're so desperate for teaching assistants because there's so many children now who need a teaching assistant because they have a disability or they have a learning difficulty, that they have a teaching assistant, that they'll take many underqualified people. And if you let people into the country, you don't know where they're from, you don't know what possible previous convictions they've had, well then they can get into these jobs and get access to children. I'm not being alarmist here. These are the facts. Laura Jane's in Hampshire and wants to talk about Angela Rayner, as many of you do today. Laura Jane, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter. I'd like to say that I'm afraid I don't have any confidence that Angela Rayner will either resign or be forced to go by Starmer, mainly because the left MPs, she's supported fully by them, and they won't want her to go because she represents the sort of ideology that they spout, and I don't think she's going to be made to go, unfortunately. It's just yet another scandal that will be pushed under the carpet, and as you know, I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. I feel that the whole thing is a set-up anyway, and this is just somehow Starmer will get around it. I don't know how, even if the...
I think he'll be okay, but it's not good. It's not good for his government anyway. Do you think she'll be gone, Laura Jane?
No, I think that somehow they'll get round it, and I don't know how.
Or you think she'll stay in office? They'll get round it somehow.
I think because of the left, they don't want her gone, and they'll fight it. Ultimately, they want Starmer gone because they know that he's doing nothing for the party and nothing for their... So, yes, I think ultimately he will be pushed, but I'm not sure.
There's an interesting aspect of this, Laura Jane, in that the deputy leader of the Labour Party is elected, I should say, by members of the Labour Party. So does she stop being deputy leader? I mean, the position of deputy prime minister, housing secretary, all of that that's in Keir Starmer's gift. He can take that away today if he wants to, but he can't stop her being deputy leader of the Labour Party. So that's an interesting aspect in all of this as well.
That is an interesting angle, and maybe that's what I'm missing. But I think you're right. Maybe he'll be seen to be doing the right thing by moving her out of her ministerial position, but she won't lose her deputy prime minister position. Maybe that's exactly what's going to happen. They're not going to get rid of her.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Laura Jane, thanks for your thoughts. Thank you to Steve. He says, I'm a bit surprised with your comments about the Truss government. I suggest you watch all of the interview and then come back. Steve, Mike did a great interview this morning, as he always does. You know, I love watching Morning Glory, and he interviewed the former Prime Minister Liz Truss very well. But, you know, I lived through all 49 days of the Liz Truss government. It was a disaster. It was a disaster for this country in a number of ways. I'd like to find anybody who found anything positive she did for this country in those 49 days and tell me about it. If you think I'm wrong, give me a ring, 0344 499 1000. Let's speak to Jerry in Glasgow about the SNP and their flags. Jerry, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
I'm just amazed that they're going to take all these sick children up to Parliament to look at the flag so they feel welcome.
Well, I think those kids are probably just going to be nursed and brought back to health in the hospitals of Scotland. There's about 20 of them, and I don't think they'll be aware at all of the fact that the flags have flown, but you're aware of it, and lots of Scottish people and lots of people who aren't Scottish are aware of it. I just think it's virtue signalling by the SNP. What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it at all until you highlighted it on the show today.
Yeah, no, they've flown the flag there at Holyrood.
Yeah, I don't think we should be taking sides of one or the other.
I think that's
terrible. Kids getting injured is terrible.
Yeah.
We're the man of our country. Kids should get operated on. Our NHS is in a total shambles. We've got 4,000 illegal immigrants in Glasgow. They're clogged our NHS system. I need an operation. My partner needs an operation.
How long have you been waiting for your operation, Jerry?
2 years for a knee operation. I know I won't die, but
that's not the point. The point is that presumably is causing you pain and inconvenience every single day.
I'm still working at this time of night with a sore knee. To pay my taxis, to see my taxis go God knows where, not to help me anyway. So.
Well, Jerry, I hope you get that operation soon, and I hope you're feeling better soon. But it's just so frustrating. There's so many people who, like Jerry, here just waiting for operations and not getting them, and the waiting lists are so long. And as Jerry says, he pays his taxes, he does all the right things, yet he's not getting the service from the NHS that we've all paid for, or well, maybe not all of us, but quite a few of us work for a living. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. We're going to talk about the sport next and take more of your calls. Stay with us.
A very good morning to you, by the way. Morning, Corey, with me, Mike Graham.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thanks to everybody who's been in touch, including Ian, who says, great show as always. This, how stupid Starmer is. This is a perfect excuse to sack Rayner before she takes his job. Nick in Glasgow says, one point that no one seems to have raised is Rayner is the MP for Ashton. How much time does she actually spend in her constituency if she doesn't have a home there, says Nick. Well, the point is, I suppose she said this arrangement where her kids live in the house the whole time. Her ex-husband lives there some of the time. She lives there some of the time as well. But she's certainly in London a lot of the time. And if she said, well, she got this place in Hove to be closer to London, well, that's completely the other end of the country from Ashton as well. So that's a point, I think, yet another question in all of this. We're talking about Epping and the sex attack verdict there of that sex offender from Ethiopia. Nigel says justice will be served when he's deported for good. Angela says, why isn't this Ethiopian being deported? Thank you to Rafi, who says Epping didn't just protest, it roared, and in doing so it gave voice to every community silenced by fear, every town shadowed by a migrant hotel. Across Britain the concern is the same. Epping simply shouted the loudest. And thank you to the person who, in reacting to the clip we've put out of my interview with Mike Wood from the Conservatives, has said good old lefty Pete with emojis which indicate all I can say is the conclusion of a bell. We'll just leave it there. I don't think I'm a lefty, but that person clearly does. I mean, I literally worked for the Conservative Party for 3.5 years in government. Anyway, time for the sport.
Sports news from The Sun.
Delighted that Phil Cadden is with us today. How are you, Phil?
Good afternoon, Peter.
Phil is the night sports editor at The Sun. No Premier League action this weekend as international matches, of course, are taking centre stage. Wales are in Kazakhstan. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I've just watched it, actually. Wales have won 1-0 in Kazakhstan. It's a big 3 points in their hopes of qualifying for the World Cup next summer. In Group J, they've gone top of the group by 2 points above North Macedonia. Belgium are the big sort of team in that group. They've got 3 games in hand, and Kiefer Moore's winner today on his landmark 50th cap sets up a really big game for Wales against Belgium in Cardiff next month.
An exclusive story from your football editor Charlie Wyatt about Manchester United's Harry Maguire. Is he set to leave the club?
It looks like he might not just yet, but there's interest from 2 clubs in Saudi Arabia. The transfer window obviously is closed over here now, but it's open in Saudi until September the 23rd. Apparently Maguire, Charlie's great exclusive story, he says in it that Maguire has made it known to those teams in Saudi he would like to stay at Old Trafford, but his contract runs out at the end of the season, so we might see maybe a change there. Obviously we're in a World Cup year, he's not in the England squad at the moment, he's not even a first choice player at Manchester United under Ruben Amorim, with Matthijs de Ligt ahead of him in the pecking order, so we might maybe see some movement on Maguire possibly in January. If he's not getting the game time he would like to then get in Thomas Tuchel's squad.
Lewis Hamilton, in just talking about racing, he's come out with fighting talk ahead of his first Italian Grand Prix, the spiritual home of Ferrari, of course, in Monza. Do you expect him to improve this weekend after crashing out in Holland?
Yeah, you'd hope so. It's a big week for Ferrari, and it's a big week for Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, the first time he'll have raced for Ferrari in Monza. He's been doing a load of events in the sort of last couple of days. I think there was 7,000 fans in Milan. He went to a guest appearance there, and obviously that's the home of Ferrari as well. So there's a lot of expectation on him. But this weekend they're going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Niki Lauda's first World Championship title. So they're going to wear a blue and white kit. Hopefully he might be inspired by that. And he's also been using some of the sort of quotes that Lauda, when he was alive, told him after races. Basically, if he didn't do so well, he would always say that you know, he should go out there and give them hell, and words to those effects. So fingers crossed that might inspire Lewis this weekend.
Thank you very much indeed, Phil, for taking us through the sport. That's Phil Cadden there, the night sports editor of The Sun. Lots of people want to talk about Angela Rayner. Let's just remind ourselves what Keir Starmer has said. Listen to what he says and what he doesn't say. He doesn't say he'll sack her if she's breached the ministerial code. The Prime Minister spoke to the BBC a little bit earlier on.
As I say, the right thing is to refer herself to the independent advisor. He has a reputation for being comprehensive and being quick, and that's what I'm expecting in this
next day
case.
or so?
Well, I can't say, but I think he will be quick. I mean, that's usually how he operates, and I think that would be a good thing in this particular case. Obviously, I will look very carefully, as you'd expect, to whatever report he puts in front of me.
Can't you not just explicitly say if a minister has broken the ministerial code, they'll be sacked? Well, and you're not saying that.
What I'm saying is there's a clear procedure. I strengthened that procedure. It is now taking place. I am expecting a result pretty quickly. I do want it to be comprehensive, as you'd expect.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I will act on whatever the report is that's put in front of me.
Well, that was Keir Starmer speaking a little bit earlier on to the BBC. James has been in touch from the West Midlands. James, I don't think we've spoken before, but you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say about Angela Rayner?
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's just regarding the payment that came out of her son's trust fund. I've got some experience of this, so I'm not going to try and make any allegations, so I'm just going to sort of recount my own experience.
Go ahead, by all means.
My brother's registered disabled. He has been since birth, basically. He has a trust fund. We were very lucky that our parents left it for him so he can have a good life going forward. And it's a registered disabled person's discretionary fund, which sounds very similar to what this is.
Okay.
And in this instance, I'm not allowed to be a trustee. So consequently, I wouldn't be able to withdraw any money from my brother's account.
That's interesting. Okay, yeah.
Now, the point here is, if she's a trustee of it and she's withdrawn money, then there could potentially be a conflict.
Sorry, James, you still there? We just lost you there for a couple of seconds. Just say what you were saying there again. Sorry.
Yeah, if she's a trustee of the trust fund and if she's basically sold part of her house and withdrawn £200,000 from his money, then surely there could be an accusation there of conflict of interest, surely. But also to take £200,000 out of a trust fund for some future when you don't know how long that could be. It could be the rest of his life, or it could be shorter. And with medical costs these days, seems a bit narrow-minded and uncaring, possibly.
How old is your brother, James?
He's 55.
And what's his quality of life like now?
Well, not great, to be honest. He's been hospitalised 5 times in the last year, and he can't walk now, unfortunately. But my brother's got autism, he's epileptic as well. So there's a lot of things going on there, but his quality of life.
How much are you in roughly the same age range? I mean, how much do you worry about what might happen if you went, or if other carers for him went?
Well, he's very lucky with the care organisation. I can't say their name. I'm sure there are other people in other organisations out there, but I can't. He's very lucky. They treat him like family, but he has 2-to-1 care 24/7 basically.
Wow. Okay.
But it does. His situation does come with a lot of responsibilities to myself, because I'm his power of attorney as well. And she may also be her son's power of attorney, because it's logical that the parents would be power of attorney for them when they get older as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know the age of Angela Ranger's child. I think it's a son. But it just seemed to me that there's a bigger issue here around the sensibleness of the action that she's taken of taking the money from the trust fund.
Yeah, no, I think that's... And listen, James, I really appreciate you sharing your experience with us and what you've been through. I really appreciate it. I wish you and I wish your brother and all your family well. We have some breaking news now on Talk, and that's that Angela Rayner's lawyers have hit back. They say they've been made scapegoats. They didn't give her tax advice. This is according to the Telegraph newspaper. I'm just being handed a piece of paper now. Now, this is, they say they've been made scapegoats and did not give her tax advice. The conveyancing firm that handled the purchase of her £800,000 flat in Hove insisted they had done nothing wrong. The comments are a major blow for the Deputy Prime Minister. She's blamed, of course, legal advice I received for her failure to pay a £40,000 stamp bill, but Verico and Associates, a family company based in Kent, confirmed it advised her on the purchase of the flat, but the managing director told the Telegraph, "We acted for Ms Rayner when she purchased the flat in Hove. We did not and never have given tax or trust advice. It's something we always refer our clients to an accountant or tax expert for. The stamp duty for the Hove flat was calculated using HMRC's own online calculator based on the figures and the information provided by Ms Rayner. That's what we used, and it told us we had to pay £30,000 based on the information provided to us. We believe we did everything correctly and in good faith. Everything is exactly as it should be. We probably are being made scapegoats for all of this, and I've got arrows stuck in my back to show it. We're not an experienced firm, but we're not an inexperienced firm, but we are not qualified to give advice on trust and tax matters, and we advise clients to seek expert advice on these." That is what the managing director of the law firm has said. Also, Daniel Levy has stepped down as the chairman of Tottenham Hotspur Football after nearly 25 years. It's all happening here on Talk Drive. Stay with us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good evening. What a busy day it is here on Talk Drive. Angela Rayner's lawyers now claiming they've been made scapegoats. They didn't give her tax advice. We'll hear what they have to say in just a second. Also, Rayner herself on the ropes, the ministerial advisor on ethics, the independent Sir Laurie Magnus is currently going through everything with a fine-tooth comb. Will Keir Starmer be able to keep her in his cabinet, or will he have to say goodbye, Angela? It'll be very interesting to find out what happens. It could happen between now and 7 o'clock. We'll keep you up to date with every jot and tittle of what happened. Matthew Torbett, the former Labour advisor, is with us, and we'll talk to us in a second, as will Joe Twyman, the founder of one of the biggest polling companies in this country, Delta Poll, about Nigel Farage's Reform UK boasting a double-digit poll lead. He's heading into Reform UK's conference. We'll cover it in great depth here on Talk, of course, over the next couple of days, on Drive tomorrow and on my Saturday show between 10 and 1. We'll take a peek inside the sun, and we will make sure we get all of your thoughts on the air, whatever they are. 0344 499 1000. You can text me at 72222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. Send me a voice note, send me a WhatsApp text message, or give me a ring on the main number 0344 499 1000. Another big story we're talking about is, of course, the Ethiopian asylum seeker who's been found guilty of sexual assault. We've had reaction to that. If you have reaction, you know how to get in touch. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us here on Talk. Well, just on that asylum seeker, actually, Anita says the maximum sentence a magistrate's court can give is epoxy 12 months for 5 counts of sexual assault. Why wasn't it sent to the Crown Court? That is a very, very good point. And also, Mike has taken issue with my slagging off of Liz Truss's government. Well, it was the Queen's government, obviously, and the King's government, but Liz Truss as Prime Minister. King Mike says, baffling from Peter Cardwell, who says he watched the Mike Graham interview with Liz Truss this morning, then goes on to complain about Liz's premiership. Peter, did you miss the bit where Liz explained how the Bank of England and others conspired to bring her down her premiership? Did you miss the part where she explained that today's gilt rates are way above the ones that she was brought down by, yet the media are quiet? Well, the media isn't quiet because we've talked about those gilt rates, we've talked about the cost of borrowing consistently on this programme, and I lived through every one of the 49 days of Liz Truss's premiership, and I know it was bad, and I know why she was forced out, and I think that was the right decision. And Rishi Sunak becoming Prime Minister wasn't exactly a massive success, but it nonetheless happened, and he was a better Prime Minister than she was. That's my opinion. You think I'm wrong, lift the phone, 0344 499 1000, and we'll talk it out. Let's talk about Keir Starmer. Let's talk about Angela Rayner's lawyers. Let me read you what the lawyers have said. This is Verico and Associates, a family company in Herne Bay in Kent, confirming that it advised Angela Rayner on the purchase of her flat. The managing director has now spoken to the Daily Telegraph, saying they've been made scapegoats. Joanna Verico: we acted for Ms Rayner when she purchased the flat in Hove. We did not and never have given tax or trust advice. It's something we always refer our clients to an accountant or tax expert for. The stamp duty for the Hove flat was calculated using HMRC's own online calculator based on the figures and the information provided by Angela Rayner. That's what we used, and it told us we had to pay £30,000 based on the information provided to us. We believe that we did everything correctly and in good faith. Everything was exactly as it should be. We probably are being made scapegoats for all this, and I've got the arrows stuck in my back to show it. We are not an inexperienced firm, but we're not qualified to give advice on trust and tax matters, and we advise clients to seek expert advice on these. Really, really interesting. Well, Keir Starmer was asked a bit earlier on by the BBC whether he was going to sack Angela Rayner if she's been found to have breached the ministerial code. This is what the Prime Minister told Chris Mason of the BBC.
As I say, the right thing is to refer herself to the independent advisor. He has a reputation for being comprehensive and being quick, and that's what I'm expecting in this
next day
case.
or so.
Well, I can't say, but I think he will be quick. I mean, that's usually how he operates, and I think that would be a good thing in this particular case. Obviously, I will look very carefully, as you'd expect, to whatever report he puts in front of me.
Can't you not just explicitly say if a minister has broken the ministerial code, they'll be sacked? Well, and you're not saying that.
What I'm saying is there's a clear procedure. I strengthened that procedure. It is now taking place. I am expecting a result pretty quickly. I do want it to be comprehensive, as you'd expect.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I will act on whatever the report is that's put in front of me.
Matthew Torbett is with us. He's a former Labour advisor. Great to have you in the studio. Is Rayner toast?
I don't see how she survives. I said yesterday, and I didn't enjoy saying it. Angela's someone I've got a lot of time for, a lot of respect for, and as someone that grew up on the estate next door to hers, she is a huge source of inspiration for people back home on how you can potentially maybe one day get to the top through hard work. And she's had a hell of a life. That's not to excuse any of this, but she's sort of defeated the odds. From a purely optical and comms point of view, if I was sat there in her office, there's an idea we might get this report tomorrow. Usually it's around a week. That means potentially a week of headlines every day. The way these stories tend to happen is there'll be more information that journalists will be able to piece together.
Well, we've seen some of them in the last few minutes with the lawyers, yeah.
Exactly. So again, this story will no doubt be front pages again tomorrow. This continues on to the Sunday shows. If it was to turn out that she has broken the ministerial code, she's resigning either during or just before Labour Party conference, which causes its own issues. Keir Starmer's, going into phase 2, apparently wanting to do a reset.
Whatever phase 2 is.
Yeah, well, apparently there was a phase 1. But that causes its own issues. Obviously, this whole situation then, because of the Labour Party's sort of bizarre constitution, also causes issues of she can resign as Housing Secretary. She has an independent mandate from Labour members to be Deputy Leader of the Labour Party.
What happens there? What happens there if she resigns? I mean, does she resign as Deputy Leader as well? Does she resign from one and not the other?
She could do. It's up to her. I suppose it's not a ministerial position being Deputy Leader of the Labour Party.
But the likelihood is, and Gordon Brown used to kind of complain that he had to give Harriet Harman a role in Cabinet, for example, because she happened to be the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. That's the sort of one position, or one of the few positions that the Prime Minister can't control. Is it plausible, do you think, to have I know we're getting into sort of criminology here, but is it plausible to have a Deputy Leader of the Labour Party who isn't in Cabinet?
There's a historical precedent with George Brown years ago, who was a backbencher who was Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. I can't remember how he ended up on the backbenches, well before my time, but that he hated it because he was toothless. There's nothing. You were basically a backbench MP with a bit of a title. You could use her to go and do stuff for the party, stuff with members, stuff that she's good at.
Campaigning, local elections coming up in May.
I think regardless of what happens with this, she will still be very much loved by Labour members, and therefore that's why I think she should have made the choice yesterday, certainly the weekend coming up, the very latest, to go now on her own terms. If she's found to be sort of innocent and in the clear, there's no reason why you can't come back in a different guise in a sort of reshuffle.
So you think she should go before this ethics advisor's report comes out?
Purely to stop the headlines, don't be a distraction, don't distract from things that the party may or may not want to announce at conference. What you do about the deputy leadership of the Labour Party is a different issue, because I'm sure number 10 at this point don't want a deputy leadership competition. You're going to end up with some potentially soft left types arguing about what the government are maybe doing, and again, it's just further ridiculous.
Also, you might end up with Richard Bergen as Deputy Leader of the Labour Party.
I think the numbers will discount that people like Richard wouldn't make the ballot, but it's true. Richard, Dawn Butler, somebody like that going, we're going to change tack, and Keir Starmer's going, no, we're not. And you end up with these sometimes odd situations where actually, in a way, Angela Rayner backed Rebecca Long-Bailey to be leader, and she's obviously ended up with Keir Starmer. There was lots of, it was very fractious at the beginning. We had Jeremy Corbyn and Tom Watson. These are the bizarre situations we can end up in. I think you should probably kill off the idea of a Deputy Prime Minister, and you have a de facto, whether that be normally it's the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Sir Pat McFadden, whether Darren Jones in this new made-up role is given a bigger brief and he does PMQs, or there's ways around it.
Darren Jones does PMQ. I'm not sure.
No, I know. No,
I'm not sure of the energy to get through that, actually.
Not my choice, but I'm thinking purely from a factional point of view. He's loyal, has his own leadership ambitions, I believe, which apparently therefore will get ChatGPT as Prime Minister. It's hilarious.
If Darren Jones becomes leader of the Labour Party, or indeed Prime Minister, I think I don't know where I'm going to move to. Maybe Timbuktu or something. Yeah, my goodness.
But I think, ultimately, she has to kill this story. And otherwise it's going to be drip-fed forevermore, and we're not going to be able to talk about stuff that we apparently want to do.
I mean, this is the thing, though, isn't it? I had lunch actually today with quite a senior Labour figure who was very much of the opinion that Angela Rayner had to go, and I just wonder what the lawyer is saying there. I mean, this sort of backs up, doesn't it, the fact that a lot of people, including an independent stamp duty expert who we spoke to yesterday, saying, conveyancers are not tax experts. I bought a flat a few years ago. I did not expect those lawyers who helped me with that, it was a very good lawyer who helped me, solicitor, to tell me what tax I should do. And Angela Rayner should have known that. Do you have sympathy for Joanna Varecco here, who's Managing Director of Varecco and Associates, this family company based in Kent, saying that she has, as she puts it, the arrows stuck in my back to show that we are being made scapegoats for all of this?
Yeah, obviously. I think, I saw, Tory MPs saying it, but being in a sort of fair way, saying you would get a tax advisor for this sort of stuff. It wouldn't be through a conveyancy or otherwise. I feel for her in the sense of if I think, and people will go, you would say that as a Labour person, knowing Angela as I do, I think she's misunderstood the details of the trust.
Why has this happened? Do you think, you say she's misunderstood it? Is it carelessness? So. Is it cock up or conspiracy?
I think her understanding of the trust is because she is no longer owner of that property, even part owning with the ex-husband or whatever else. Well, therefore, if she doesn't own it, isn't her home. I imagine they understand. I can only go off. I have a friend who did the same for his disabled brother, that it was put in his name. So my assumption would be, well, that's his house.
Do you have sympathy for her?
I feel desperately sorry for her because I saw how upset she was yesterday, and people will mock her and whatever else, and people will say, well, she didn't offer that, sort of sympathy for Nadeem Zahawi and others. I think. And again, I wouldn't offer this for Nadeem Zahawi because I don't know Nadeem Zahawi, so therefore I wouldn't maybe offer the same sympathy again. I think she's made a mistake. I think politics is brutal. She'll pay the price for this mistake. And even if she was to somehow get through this and be found to be in the clear, you're tarnished. And even from two different types of the spectrum, I spoke to a Labour MP today who is very much an Angela ally, has known her many decades, who said to me, I don't see how she survives, regardless. So you've got allies of hers now thinking this. And on the flip side, I had a haircut today, which I think looks quite nice. My barber is not political in the slightest. I had to explain why the news has been a bit crazy today and yesterday. And he didn't even know who Angela Rayner was. He's that apolitical. And when I explained the situation, he went, oh, she's got to go then, surely. So this is it. The public, all they will see if you are just a sort of casual observer of the news, regardless of the complications, is Deputy Prime Minister did not pay tax and should have done. That's a killer.
Totally. And it's a one-line story that is factual and explains it. And as Tony Blair said in his autobiography, A Journey, which I didn't buy because I don't give money to war criminals, it was the hardest thing for any practicing politician to remember is that most members of the public most days of the week don't give politics a second thought. Our viewers and listeners do, but I mean, I'm sitting here and it's my job to know this stuff as well as you do, and I don't understand all the tax implications. I don't understand all of it, but I do understand she's done something wrong, and I also understand how that feels. And politics it's an emotional reaction. It's the emotional reaction of your barber as well. It's the emotional reaction of all our viewers and listeners, and I'm really interested to talk to people today about this. 0344 499 1000. Just before you go, Bernie in Essex says, where did you get your jacket? I want one.
This is, I suppose, free advertisement. Slater's in Bromley. They have a fantastic store in Manchester. I tried to find one in London. The full suit was very, very reasonable. I don't like paying lots of money for stuff. I'm too tight, and I don't have any money. So, but it's a great place. Go and see Slater's in Bromley.
There we are. Bernie in Essex, thanks for your message there. Dave says, regarding Angela Rayner, Keir Starmer is waiting for the report so he can tell her to resign as he hadn't got the cojones to sack her, says Dave in Hull. Thank you for that. Thank you to Matthew Torbett joining me in the studio. We'll talk to Joe Twyman in a second and take your calls very, very soon as well. Stay with us here on Talk.
very good morning to you, by the way. Morning, Corey, with me, Mike Graham.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, thank you to everybody who has been in touch today and given us the benefit of your thoughts, including Alicia in Chelmsford, who says, "Good afternoon, Peter. Enjoying your show as always. A deviation from your discussions today. Tomorrow, Friday, marks 700 days since the hostages were brutally taken from Israel. I doubt many media outlets will cover it, but I'm sure you will. I have a poster of the emaciated figure of Aviatar next to my TV screen as a reminder. I hope we're not too late to rescue him and all the others. Thank you," says Alicia in Chelmsford. Well, I have consistently and will always remember those hostages. Let's get them back. Let's make sure they're reunited with their families. It is a big issue, and it's one that we're never shy away from on my programmes. Dave is in London and wants to give me his thoughts. Dave, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter. I felt obliged to call in. I was listening to you. Well, quick one on Liz Truss. You said what things are better. Rachel Reeves is dreaming of having a bond yield at Liz Truss levels by November, because that would save her $25 billion a year on interest payments. There's one thing.
Neither of those bond yields is particularly good, though, Dave.
No, they're probably not. But just so you know, on those bond yields, if you actually look at the graph, when Liz Truss actually became Prime Minister, they were already at about 4.3%. Then they went to 4.5. Then they came down. They didn't go from 2 to 4.3.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's absolutely true.
I felt obliged to call because when you was, I'll say, sticking the boot into the Tory guy that was on earlier, going on about the difference between bullying and tax avoidance evasion, you then said something like, I think most of our listeners are thinking the way I'm thinking as Peter. And I was almost shouting at the screen and about to turn you off.
You weren't thinking what I was thinking?
No, I wasn't at all. And I'll tell you why. The way you were talking to him, and if you watch it back tonight, the way you were talking to him and being quite attacking, aggressive, and shutting him down and saying you're a broken record, if you had been Priti Patel and he had been someone in the department ideologically not wanting to do what Priti Patel wanted to do, that person would have said, she's bullying me because she's talking to me just like Peter Cardwell was talking to that Tory guy earlier.
Do you think I bullied him during the interview? Okay, Dave, do you think I bullied him during the interview?
No, because you're the interviewer and he's the person. But what I'm telling you is, if you'd have been Priti Patel and you'd been talking to a person in the department that you're in that way, they would very much say, Patel is bullying me because I don't want to do it. It happened to Dominic Raab as well.
Well, they might and they might not, Dave. I mean, the fact is,
Peter, they do these days. People now just go, oh, you've raised your voice. Oh, don't shout at me. Don't do this. Don't do that.
But she was found by an independent ethics advisor to have. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you that much, Dave. What I'm saying is she was found by an independent ethics advisor to have bullied. My point is, how Priti Patel conducts herself is kind of not the issue. The issue is that she was found by the ministerial ethics advisor to have broken the ministerial code, and Boris Johnson didn't sack her. What that dude earlier, that Tory MP, was saying is that if the ministerial advisor finds that Angela Rayner has broken the ministerial code, Keir Starmer must sack her. I mean, that's the difference, isn't it?
No, because in my opinion, there are different levels of ministerial code, a bit like murder and manslaughter. The person died in both cases, but one's murder, one's manslaughter. So no, the ministerial code I bet you Keir Starmer is poring all over that code right now to try and find some kind of words that are in the ministerial code that will get her and him out of this spot. And that it's a code.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, and there are different levels of bullying. If I raise my voice to someone, they'll say, "You're bullying me." No, I'm not. I'm being robust.
Oh, Dave, you still there?
It's not as easy to find. Anyway.
Okay, well, we're not cutting you off. Just okay. Well, are we still friends, Dave? Are we still friends? I hope you think I've listened to you.
You certainly have, and I still think yours is the best show on tour.
That's very kind, Dave. Well, thank you very much for your call. I really appreciate it. And listen, on this show, we can disagree without being disagreeable. Maybe I should have done that a bit more with Mike Wood. You never know. Thank you to John in Lincolnshire, who says Angela has no excuses. Her boss is a lawyer. Lord Hermer is a lawyer. They might not be tax advisors, but it was only last year she couldn't work out where she lived. It is time to go, says John in Lincolnshire. Mark in Norfolk says, during my divorce, I took bad and negligent advice and was awarded over £10,000 as a refund. However, when it came to my 3 divorce court hearings, not one presiding judge was interested. In short, I was repeatedly told it's your responsibility to ensure all papers and payments are correct. No mitigation was accepted whatsoever. The same should apply for Angela Rayner, says Mark in Norfolk. Well, we're into party conference season now, and Reform UK's conference is tomorrow. Jeremy will be there. Many others will as well, of course. Thousands of people are going to be in Birmingham. The Conservatives are later, actually next month in October, in Manchester, and before then, Labour and the Liberal Democrats. Labour are in Liverpool. I can't remember where the Liberal Democrats are. Maybe, I think it's Bournemouth, possibly. It's somewhere on the seaside. Maybe Ryan, my producer, would check that. But anyway, it's conference season. More polling is out, and yet another poll that shows that Reform UK are ahead, this time by 10 points. Joe Twyman is the founder of Delta Poll and is with us now. Joe, it must be great for Nigel Farage, back from Washington, going into his conference, the victor essentially, although still, of course, only 4 MPs in Parliament, but it looks as if he could be on track for a very, very good election, were one to be held tomorrow, which it isn't.
Yes, that's right. Could is doing a lot of heavy lifting, but there's no doubt that Nigel Farage has been the winner of the summer. He has done a very good job of dominating the airwaves, of moving subjects to what he wants to talk about, and he has benefited in the polls as a result. We've seen consistently now Reform has been ahead by 8, 9, sometimes 10%, and they've led in every published poll since the local elections.
We saw them ahead of 15% in the BMG poll recently as well, but I mean, are there any polls where they're not ahead?
No, they've been ahead in every poll since the local elections. And the degree to which they're ahead varies. The more established pollsters tend to have smaller leads, but of course there's margin of errors associated with these things, and so they do fluctuate as you go along. But there's no doubt that going into their conference, this is precisely the kind of position that Nigel Farage wants to be in, and I'm sure he will do the best to use the conference season to attract the kind of attention that each party gets in turn. Each party gets their time in the sun, sometimes quite literally, and they will hope to benefit in the polls as a result of that. Nigel Farage, as we've said, done very well over the summer, is likely to do very well this weekend, and as we move on, it will be interesting to see the degree to which he can pull away the attention from the other parties as they each take their turn.
Well, one party that's absolutely in the media spotlight at the moment is Labour in regard to Angela Rayner. When these things happen, when these scandals erupt, who benefits from a polling perspective? Is it the Conservatives? Is it Reform UK? Who will benefit? Maybe it's Jeremy Corbyn and his as yet unnamed party. How do you predict the polls will shift, given your knowledge of what's happened previously?
Well, potentially all of the parties, apart from Labour, could benefit from this. I think it's really important to remember that a lot of what is driving Reform's support is a dissatisfaction, a disapproval and a distrust, not just of individual politicians or individual political parties, but of the political process in general. And so that kind of event with Angela Rayner will only seek to reinforce the negativity that some people in the electorate have. The difficulty that Reform have is twofold. Firstly, maintaining this level of support going into not just the next month, but the next few years until the general election, and then secondly, not being too much of an establishment party as they start to gain support more widely than they have up until now. And so that's a real challenge for them, because the more they are seen as potentially a future government, the more difficult it is for them to maintain an anti-establishment position.
Are the Tories anywhere at the moment? Because we saw Kemi Badenoch, there was an open goal. I think she missed it at PMQs yesterday. She should have used all 6 questions about Angela Rayner. There was so much to ask about that, and their poll rating just seems to be dreadful at the moment.
The Conservatives are in real trouble. They're consistently in third place in the mid to high teens in some polls, and so they will be seeing their conference at the start of October in Manchester as a real opportunity to turn things around, to reset, and to start the recovery. The big question for them is, will it make any difference, or are they stuck in a situation now where really it doesn't matter what anyone says, Kemi Badenoch or otherwise, they're just not able to get supporters back? And will they have to rely on, for instance, reform, making a few missteps to perhaps bring some supporters back? There's no doubt that the conference will be a huge moment for Kemi Badenoch. The question is she up to it? And we don't know yet.
Joe, thank you as always. Joe Twyman there, the founder of Delta Poll, carries out polls for very, very prestigious organisations and indeed for some authors. There's one coming out in a book in the next month or so, but I can't possibly mention the name, otherwise Ofcom will have me. Tracy says, we in Bournemouth always have the dreary Lib Dems, says Tracy. I remember I was in Liverpool. I went in 2010 to Liverpool and had a go in the big wheel. In Liverpool. But Tracy, thank you for that. Yes, it is Bournemouth. I did remember that correctly. But I'm not going this year to the Liberal Democrats, which is obviously deeply, deeply sad. Right, well, I'm going to take another call now. Dave is in Southend. Dave, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Good evening, Peter. A couple of things, but firstly, I think Mr. Talbot's got his facts absolutely wrong. Once again, we're harping on what she's done, where she's come from, her family, blah, 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 blah. I think even Labour supporters are going to be really ticked off with this woman.
I mean, in fairness to Matthew Talbot, he sounded pretty ticked off, and he said that a Labour MP he'd spoken to, who's a friend of Angela Rayner, thinks she should resign.
That's true, but he did start with the old garbage, where she come from, housing estate, built up. I'm not interested.
I'm not interested in that either, Dave. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, but we've come to a point now where Westminster is just a complete sewer of people. The people that are in there are absolutely disgraceful. You can say, oh, they're not all of them, but it's becoming a point now where it's very difficult to find a good one. Although I do know there is one good Labour person who I think is very good, and he always has been very fair. That's Mr. Stringer, I think his name is.
Graham Stringer, yeah, we've had him on the programme before. He's been very critical of Keir Starmer, certainly. What do you think should happen with Angela Rayner? What should she do? What should Keir Starmer do? What do you think, Dave?
Right, well, what I think is going on here, we've got two situations. We've got Angela Rayner, Reeves and Starmer, and I think they all got dirt on each other and they're all afraid to go for each other. Starmer won't attack Rayner because she can go on the backbenches and really dig it into him and dig some filth and let things out. I think what's happening now behind the scenes is that she's going to hang on to her wage for a little bit longer, and a deal's going to be made with her to resign. She'll end up at the end of the year going into the House of Lords, where I don't know, you should know this, where their wages are tax-free.
That's right.
I don't know how that... Yeah, well,
that's correct.
That shouldn't be allowed either, so she'll fit in quite well in.
Yeah, they get an attendance allowance. I think it's about £350 a day.
Yeah, but that should be taxed. None of us could get away with this. Yeah. But like I said, she should fit in very well there with them, with the tax thing. But she should now resign and go, but she won't. She'll hang on, and the deal will be made behind the scenes. But back to this graffiti, I don't care. I'm fed up with politicians making our lives miserable.
Well, we can't condone people going around graffitiing people's homes. That's not a nice thing. That's criminal damage.
Well, you can say what you like. I don't care anymore, because the way these politicians have made our lives a misery, do they honestly think that this sort of thing isn't going to come their way now?
Well, we don't. Well, it shouldn't come their way, Dave. It shouldn't. We shouldn't go around attacking people's homes. And it's not just the thing is there are other people. That's a flat. That's not just one person. It's not just Angela Rayner who lives there. There are other people as well who live there. And you know, the families of politicians don't deserve to be attacked because they haven't chosen the life, whereas the politician has.
Well, I'm sorry. You can feel sorry for these people. I don't, and I think there's millions in the country think the same way. Okay. I'm not interested in politicians and all this garbage. We live in a sewer at the moment, which is being caused by politicians.
Okay.
And politicians have got to accept that they are dragging this country so far down that we're going to get to a point we will not get back on our feet.
Dave, thanks for your thoughts. That's Dave in Southend there. We're going to respectfully disagree on that, and I want to make it absolutely clear that I do not condone any criminal act, and certainly not graffitiing anybody's home, never mind Angela Rayner. Thank you to Brian, who says, regarding Rayner, ignorance is no defence. Thank you to Mike in Lincoln, who says, much as I hate to disagree with the only sensible Labour voice I hear on the radio, Matthew Talbot, I think our Ange was shedding crocodile tears, and only because she's been caught out. He's right, she has to go, but she isn't going to get any public sympathy after her hypocrisy. Brad says, it's all very well people praising Rayner's working class roots, but the government of this country cannot carry passengers, and she is completely out of her depth. People are trying to make allowances because she is not the most educated or brightest. She shouldn't be in that position, says Brad in Cambridge. Another person says, if Angela Rayner has taken out a trust, then she also needs to pay tax on that sum as well. And thank you to both Louise and Tad, who sent me very nice messages about my style. I am not going to read them out, otherwise my head will explode. But we're going to talk about what's in the Sun tomorrow. I would imagine Angela Rayner might be in it. You never know. Will Barker's the Deputy Head of News and will join us in just a second. And between now and 7 o'clock, when Alex Phillips takes over, we're going to take a load of your calls and make sure we hear from you. If you want to get your voice on the air, 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you to Les, who has sent me a tweet to say Matthew Talbot is correct. Our Labour commentator a bit earlier on, former Labour advisor Matthew Talbot there. Given the statement by Rayner's lawyers, her position is untenable, given she is the Deputy Prime Minister. It says a lot about the quality of the Labour leadership. They are wooden, duplicitous and completely taking the UK in a dangerous direction. They're all as bad as each other, says Les. Hashtag Rayner in the bin. Henry O'Carroll says Angela Rayner needs to resign. The whole integrity has been compromised. No respect for the privileged position she holds if she stays on. Keir Starmer will throw under the bus to see if his leadership position that he himself gained with blatant lies, in Henry's opinion. Well, I'm going to take a bit of a punt, and I think that Angela Rayner might be in the Sun, maybe even the front page tomorrow. Will Barker is with us. He's the Deputy Head of News. Would that be a fair bet?
I think you should put some money on that, because it's a very fair punt.
As long as I don't put it in a trust fund and then withdraw the money and then buy a house in Hove. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, it's pretty sure that she will be on the front page. It's, I mean, yeah, as you've seen the last half hour, it's sort of been moving very quickly. In fact, we've had quite a lot happen today. The storm clouds are really sort of gathering round her now. The PM hasn't backed her. These lawyers have now come out, said that they're trying to stab her in the back, or they're being stabbed in the back through this probe, and it looks pretty bleak for her. The only respite she's got is that we understand this report is going to come back very swiftly, and the PM said today as much. The whole process is going to be dealt with very quickly, so we'll know. Maybe even by the weekend that her fate, and on the face of it, it's not looking good at the moment.
Tell us about the story we've been covering as well, about the migrant who's been found guilty of sexually assaulting a girl near the Bell Hotel. Of course, you'll be talking about this. He lied about his age, apparently. He also told his victim his name was Thomas. That was a lie as well. But a magistrate can only actually jail him or sentence him to 12 months, I understand.
Yeah, and then over 12 months he gets deported straight away. It's a sort of a bit of a 50-50 whether he gets deported or not. As you said, he's been found guilty this afternoon. It was this very significant case at the time, sparked all these sort of these riots around Epping, and the detail that came out in the case was that they basically said, the prosecution said that it was just a tissue of lies, his whole case really. He almost felt like he just sort of made it up on the spot as he walked into the dock, and they found him guilty on all counts.
Yeah. We've heard earlier in the week about Kenneth Williams and the fact that an audience with Kenneth Williams had a trigger warning on it. Now Tommy Cooper, the 1970s comic, has been hit by a trigger warning over his outdated attitudes. Tell us about that.
Well, we're really sort of plundering from this ITVX. They keep giving us these stories. It's brilliant. And there's now Tommy Cooper, old 70s comic, surprise, surprise, is using outdated old attitudes.
Hold on. What they're saying is that someone who was a comedian 50 years ago might have attitudes that are slightly different. That's really interesting. I'm sure no one turning on the television will have thought that. It's so patronising.
It really is. I mean, it's just so obvious that anybody that would be turning in, because you have to physically go and find this. It's not sort of just, you don't sort of stumble upon it.
Yeah.
And it's, they've got these very old-fashioned jokes might well be outdated. Shock horror.
Well, I want you to declare your interest in the next story. Will you be going blonde like Princess Kate?
Yes, I think so. I think this time has come. I mean, I feel sorry for Wills. They came back to work today, and
not much hair apparent.
No much hair apparent, and nobody's noticed his new beard.
Right. Okay.
He premiered his new beard, and there is not a line that's been written about it, but it's all about Kate going blonde.
She does have great hair. She does have great hair, this old Princess Kate.
So as a man who is, follically challenged, there has been a lot of hair chat in the newsroom today. Has she had extensions? Why is it made to look so big? But
are you just keeping out of it?
Exactly. I've just been slightly keeping well away from it all. But but our royal man Matt Wilkinson understands it's not extensions, it's not a wig, it's not anything. None of these sort of online rumours are correct. It is just simply that she's just had a very good summer, and she's gone blonde in the sun.
I like the fact you're saying she's officially debuted her new brighter colour. It's some sort of unofficial launch. It's sort of soft launch, and then she goes for the official launch of her new. Great stuff. Well, you can read and indeed see all about that. Regally Blonde is a great headline. So thank you very much indeed, Will Barker, there, Deputy Head of News at The Sun. Plenty more to talk about. I can still see the calls coming in about Angela Rayner. You want to talk about her before 7? Give me a ring, 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
very good morning to you, by the way. Morning, Tory, with me, Mike Graham.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
So this is a really serious time in politics. It's a really serious time in our country. We're in a position where we've just had an asylum seeker convicted of sexual assaults. He is going to be sentenced soon and hopefully deported from this country. We have a Deputy Prime Minister who is perhaps on the brink of resigning. We're waiting for a report to find out whether she's going to do that or not, or whether the Prime Minister is going to sack her. The economy is in the toilet and people are talking about a bailout from the International Monetary Fund that might happen. So what happened in the House of Commons today? Well, Lucy Powell, who is the leader of the House of Commons, the Labour Cabinet Minister, decided that she should congratulate Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce on their engagement at Business Questions. Is that how you pronounce his surname? How do you pronounce his surname? Yes, Kelce. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift have been congratulated on their engagement. So that's just exactly what a Cabinet Minister decided was a really important thing to do in the House of Commons today. So, I mean, I'm really glad Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are getting married. I mean, it's marvellous, it's wonderful, good for them. Is that what should be debated in the House of Commons when there's so many other important things to talk about? Well, Keir Starmer has a big decision to make. It'll be based, he says, on what Laurie Magnus, the Ministerial Advisor on Ethics, puts forward in his report. The Prime Minister has been talking to the BBC. Listen to the words he says and indeed the words he doesn't say about whether he's going to sack Angela Rayner if she's broken the ministerial code.
As I say, the right thing is to refer herself to the independent advisor. He has a reputation for being comprehensive and being quick, and that's what I'm expecting in this
next day
case.
or so.
Well, I can't say, but I think he will be quick. I mean, that's usually how he operates, and I think that would be a good thing in this particular case. Obviously, I will look very carefully, as you'd expect, to whatever report he puts in front of me.
Can't you, do you not just explicitly say if a minister has broken the ministerial code, they'll be sacked? Well, and you're not saying that.
What I'm saying is there's a clear procedure. I strengthened that procedure. It is now taking place. I am expecting a result pretty quickly. I do want it to be comprehensive, as you'd expect.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I will act on whatever the report is that's put in front of me.
The Prime Minister there, thank you to Elsa, who says, "Hi Peter, it's amusing. Labour are playing the working class girl card to defend Rayner. I've listened to angry people all day on Talk, and one thing's quite clear, the vast majority of critics appear to be working class women. The only people inclined to defend her are educated middle class people, so Labour are using this story to create a class divide, but it seems to have backfired." Heather is in Garvan. Heather, you're very welcome to the programme. What do you make of this?
Well, I doubt it if the Prime Minister is going to get rid of her because, he's in an uncompromising situation at the moment that he's finding himself with Angela Rayner. And I say it should be down to the ethics committee of the Houses of Parliament to suspend her, because that's what what happened with Boris Johnson when he got suspended.
That's a very good point, Heather, but in terms of her position as Deputy Prime Minister and Housing Secretary, that's up to Keir Starmer. What do you think he should do?
Well, he should do the honourable thing and suspend her, and also put black ball on it. That's turn the phrase of suspending her membership from the Houses of Parliament as well and revoke all her privileges, and she will never ever stand for any political party or her own party ever again. That's what they should put on.
Okay.
A full outright ban, because we need some transparency. We need some honesty with our politicians. And it's about time. We need a lot of improvements with our politicians at the moment. And it's down to this constitutional. We need a full constitutional shift and change to make it easier to suspend MPs without any questions.
Heather, thank you so much for your thoughts on that. Appreciate that. Debbie's been in touch from Eastbourne and says, I think I'm probably in the minority, but I think if Liz Truss had been able to push through her policies, the country would be in a better place. Her ideas were good, her execution poor, lowering of corporation tax, no inheritance tax, both good. Well, we'll never know, says Debbie in Eastbourne. We may find out, of course, over the next few days what happens to Angela Rayner. We'll certainly get that report. I think it may well come tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a massive day here on Drive. I'm on between 4 and 7 again, and we're going to take Nigel Farage's speech from Reform UK's conference live. That'll be around 5 o'clock. We're going to find out, I think, probably tomorrow, what's happened to Angela Rayner. There will certainly be developments, as there have been every few hours. We've had her lawyers, for example, saying that she has thrown them under the bus. That's a fascinating development, and that's going to be in the Sun tomorrow. So what should actually happen, do you think? Let us know what you think. 0344 499 1000. If you can't get through with me in the next 8 minutes, you can talk to Alex, of course, after 7. Terry's in Liverpool and is with me now. Terry, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
I'd like to know what the trustees of Angela Rayner's son's house were doing, and who are the trustees? Because surely they've got to be accountable somewhere along the line.
I think she's a trustee. I'm not sure whether she should be or shouldn't be, but if money was taken out of the trust to go to her, if she sort of sold her stake in that home, for example, and the money came to her, well, she would have either had to convince the trustees that this was the right thing, or made the decision partially or fully herself.
Unbelievable. How can a trustee use a trustee's fund?
Well, her argument seems to have been, I can't speak for Angela Rayner, but her argument seems to have been, Terry, when she was saying to Sky News yesterday, that this was to secure the full ownership of the home for her disabled son.
Well, I can accept that, but surely there must be some legislation somewhere along the line that trustees cannot benefit from the trust fund.
You would have thought so. What do you think should happen now?
First thing.
Okay, thanks for your thoughts there. Terry, thank you very much indeed. That's Terry in Liverpool there. Matt is in Cheshire and has given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Matt, thanks for your thoughts. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate you giving me a ring. Let me guess, Matt, we've spoken before, and I think I can predict you're going to say Keir Starmer's done a brilliant job. Angela Rayner should definitely stay because she's such a person of such great integrity. Is that your view, Matt?
God, you read my mind.
Yeah. What do you think, Matt? What do you think?
Can I firstly say I love the new combative Peter of the last couple of days.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know whether you've been in a bad mood or something, but everybody has copped for it who has tried to take you on. So I love it. It's
okay.
Great.
Fair enough.
Long may it continue. I live 2 miles away, 2 to 3 miles from a Ashton-under-Lyne home.
Lucky you. Do you pop round for a cup of sugar?
No.
Okay, yeah. I thought you probably wouldn't, yes.
If you could see what she and Labour have done to her constituency, most people here think she's an absent, social climbing charlatan. Real working class people hate dishonesty, disloyalty and hypocrisy. And I think George Galloway summed it up best on a video last night. He called her a lowlife. And he also stated, Labour, knowing they are a one-term government, are playing supermarket sweep, trying to fill their trolley and their pockets as quickly as possible. And they only wanted power for power's sake and to get access to the trough. And to finish, we have reached the bottom of the barrel politically, and both the main parties need to die immediately.
I think a lot of people feel that way. I don't think everybody does, but I think a lot of people feel that, you know, there's just nothing Labour or the Conservatives can say to really convince people. Maybe the Liberal Democrats as well, I don't know. And I just see loads of people going either to the Jeremy Corbyn side or to the Reform side, and that's a real indictment of our two-party system, the fact that that system itself and both those parties to a degree, if the polls are to be believed at the moment, could suffer really heavy losses, and Reform UK could be the next government of this country.
Of course. I mean, I think that was inevitable anyway.
Right.
Without seeing how shockingly bad this government are. I know you were a former Conservative advisor, and I know you've probably got sort of an affinity with them.
Not massively, to be honest, Matt. I mean, I just kind of, you know, gave a pretty critical interview to a Conservative earlier on. I mean, I just feel totally politically homeless at the moment, as I know a lot of people do.
They literally have betrayed us for decades, and Labour have done the same. And you couldn't write on the back of a stamp what they've done for the people of the country in the last 30 years.
Well, I was actually chatting to, I mentioned this before, I had lunch with a quite senior Labour figure today, and I mean, I just sort of said, what has Keir Starmer actually done? What is the positive things? He keeps talking about breakfast clubs. I mean, that's just giving a load of money to breakfast clubs. That's fine, that's okay. But actually, is that really a massive achievement of the last year of phase one? There's a lot, I think, to think about. Matt, listen, thanks for your thoughts, Matt. It's always good to talk to you. That's Matt in Cheshire there. He has the great privilege of living 2 miles away from Angela Rayner's house. Jane, well, exactly. Jane has been in touch as well. He says, didn't Lucy Powell say something recently regarding grooming gangs? People wanted her gone too. That's right. She said that it was dog whistle politics to talk about grooming gangs, or rape gangs as they should actually be called. And she's been in Parliament today congratulating Taylor Swift. So I'm sure, given the fact that there aren't any other major political issues to talk about, congratulating Taylor Swift and her fiancé Travis Kelce is the #1 political issue. I'm sure it's the top story in your programme, Alex, the fact that they've been engaged.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, exactly. What is actually coming up in your programme?
We are going to